Welcome to episode 52 of Plat Chat Valorant. We now have one episode for an entire year. It's taken us more than a year, but we now have an episode. You could watch one a week for the next year if you wanted to. It would be utterly irrelevant, though. The stuff we talk about would not make any sense to you by the time you got a year from now and you were watching this episode. So wouldn't advise it, but you could if you wanted to.
Yeah, can't wait to see what
I think you'd have fun.
Fish 1, 2, 3 are up to. What are they doing? Oh, wait, Artist has cheating accusations.
Wow.
What's going to be the resolution of this fiasco?
Yeah.
I mean, theoretically, if you're like Matthew McConaughey from Interstellar and he was like traveling through a black hole and come back from like a time dilation, that would be relevant, right? Like he could go like a year in the past. And then
You
watch
planning
it all.
on traveling through any black holes in any time soon?
I mean, I don't know. I mean,
Really?
what if we have like what if there's an
Matthew
astronaut?
McConaughey?
I mean, I would love to be Matthew McConaughey. I think he's got a sweet life, but you know.
We already know who you are. You're Jeremy from Love Island.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I mean, just
Jeremy
in case
from
anyone
Love
hasn't
Island.
seen that, Google it. Jeremy Love Island looks exactly the same as Avast. We brought this up already on the Overwatch show. He basically is Avast if he just had the neck enlargement surgery, where he just tripled in size.
Yeah. If I didn't do some more neck curls.
There he is.
Wow.
I need to do some more neck curls.
Wow.
Look at that.
That's uncanny.
Chad Avast.
That is, dude,
Yeah,
that guy's
just need to
neck
get
is
thicker.
a fucking ent. It's a tree trunk. That is...
Yeah.
But you could look like that. You have the same
You
hair,
can
too.
do it. I mean, like you can
Yeah.
do like stuff to make your neck bigger. There's,
Stop,
like,
stop saying you.
Yeah.
You.
No,
you.
not
you. Not
me.
us.
Not
Not
us.
us. We're saying.
No, I mean I can too. But I mean the point being is that any person can make their neck look bigger.
Yeah.
If they wanted to do it.
I've also realized that we've been blessed by by a member of royalty here today.
Yeah.
You're just dressed up in the
Dude,
swaggiest
I
attire
just don't
ever.
give a fuck anymore. That's really what's changed. That's really what's changing around here.
What do you mean you don't give a fuck? You're more dressed up than usual.
Dude, I'm chilling.
That's your
I'm
chilling gear.
absolutely. Yeah, dude.
You look
I
like
got-
Steven Seagal. It looks like you're gonna be the white guy in a martial arts movie that goes to like a dojo and fights everyone. That's what you're currently looking like.
No,
I
listen,
believe it.
I'm absolutely chilling.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm sitting here.
Dream's been taken off. You're
Got a
just
nice soft
chilling all of a
cardigan
sudden.
on.
You start
Yeah,
wearing
dude.
rings. Show 'em the
Exactly.
rings.
Exactly. 17 rings on every hand.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's
ju-
nothing. Let's
Just
talk about-
dripping wealth
Do you
from
guys
every
wanna-
orifice.
Do you guys want to talk about Valorant?
Talk about Valorant?
No. Don't want to.
Yeah, go on then.
You
Go
know,
on then.
No, I actually don't
I will
want
be
to.
disappointed if you don't come up with like you got to be wearing earrings. You got to get a nose piercing next time around.
You better be
Like,
a
next
Mansa
episode,
Musa
you
looking
better be
ass.
coming up and up and up.
I want to see Avast go into that. You've got such a, done up kind of image. I want to see you with like a nose piercing, eyebrow piercing, face
I just become
tattoo.
really alt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could definitely do that for sure. I mean, technically, there is a channel point reward on my stream where, like, I think we're halfway there now. Where I'm gonna dress up as Goth Avast, and I'm gonna have like a choker and like fingerless gloves
Yeah.
and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot you already
Yes.
did that.
Yeah.
There's that.
Yeah, I've done that before in
infamous
college,
photo.
and I'm gonna recreate it. Yes.
Goth Avast will be coming back. Well, wow.
Avast
That,
is coming
and that's
back.
just for a channel points reward as well. You
Sweet.
can get that just by
Sweet.
betting in his channel. That's not bad. That's not bad.
What'll this guy do for a couple members? Let's really push the limits of what YouTube will allow on their platform.
Yeah, I
in
mean,
regards to profanity.
I've seen some shit on this website. I don't think we want to be pushing the limits. Otherwise, all of our jobs are at stake. Actually, I mean, you're best placed for that then, Avast, aren't you? So that would work.
Yeah.
Last week, we went through the bracket and we gave our predictions of North America. And one of the things that I distinctly remember saying, and all of us agreeing with as well, was that 100 Thieves did not look very good. They didn't look good when they played against Noble or Saw. Well, I mean, the game against Saw wasn't broadcast, but they dropped a map against them. Then they had like a tough match as they moved on forwards. We all said that it was more likely that they dropped down and went out of the lower bracket than progressed deep. And they didn't. They absolutely kind of pounded in the upper bracket, being able to beat who did they beat? Version1, sorry.
Version1.
And then Envy with some outrageous performances. What the frick is going on there?
Here's the question I want to pose. And wait.
Before you
Get
pose
it
that
off,
question,
Balla.
why is our lower third like an apology? Why are we, it looks like we underrated 100 Thieves? We're
Because this is for the
sorry.
100 Thieves fans. This
I'll
is for the
tell-
100 Thieves
exactly.
fans.
Because the 100 Thieves fans are frothing at the mouth and we have to placate them. Otherwise, they'll overrun the set. I can hear them battering at the doors outside. Hiko was good! Asuna dropped 300 kills!
Yeah.
Underrate me now, you little bitches! That's what they're shouting at Plat Chat Valorant right now.
Yeah, but I mean, that's kind of, I don't even think that lower third is,
You don't think it's accurate?
no, the future doesn't change the past.
Okay,
Like, they were bad, and they admitted to it.
sure.
And then they majorly stepped it up, which is why they deserve an immense amount of credit.
Mm-hmm.
But the question I wanted to pose is this. And we can get in a nice little circle. We give all of our little opinions. And
Kumbaya.
what I wanted to ask is,
Sorry, what is this? What is this winky sad face that's now there?
Let it happen.
I don't even know what emotion that
The
creates.
winky
on
sad
us.
looks like a stroke. It seems like the bird that
It
seems like
does
a
a bit,
face.
it
I
is
don't
does
just-
know what that face even is, man. What I want to get at here. Yeah.
Ask the question.
That's good. That's
What
good. I
that's
like that
way
one.
better. That's now that I understand. Okay, what I want to get at here
You'll get to it eventually.
is
Come on, Rocky.
Next
You'll go when you want to.
It might be 2 years of episodes before he gets his question out.
Episode 104. Why? What I
You know
want
what's
to
crazy?
get to is
This whole week, this is a total aside. I'm never getting to this
God
question.
damn it, man.
I was thinking this whole week, I was like, wait, is it really a year of doing Plat Chat Valorant episodes? And I kept going back and forth in my mind. I'm like, oh, is it 52 weeks or is it 56?
You thought it was 56 weeks in a year?
Well, no, I didn't think that for sure. It was like, which one is it?
Why
So
was
I kept-
why was 53, 4, and 5 not included?
Because I knew it was an even number that wasn't 54. So,
Yeah, that's how people
Anyhow,
learn how many weeks there are in a year.
I'm
Remember,
just-
kids, it's an even number that's not 54.
I'm just glad
you're
to
the
know for
mathematician.
sure now that
Yeah.
it's okay. So my question was going to be, for each of us, with this 100 Thieves success in this tournament, do we put more of the success on Asuna or the team?
Mm.
And I want us to all give our little opinions.
And the context for that is that Asuna dropped 48 in one of the matches.
And
He was
even that
popping
match
off.
aside, he was ridiculous in this
Yeah.
tournament. Okay. So that is the context.
All
What-
right.
What do we think?
Well, I'm going to give my input first because I haven't watched all of their games. I didn't watch the 100 Thieves game against XSET yet. I think that one was a seeding game, right? So I was blitzing back through the VODs after Overwatch League, and I only watched the games that actually had them qualify. So I watched the game against the game when they played against Version1, and then this one against Envy, and I was extremely impressed with the 100 Thieves, the team, and Asuna was also obviously popping off, but Asuna can pop and the team can still lose with the former way that they were playing. But I thought the improvements to Ethan's positioning, primarily, how much more aggressive he was being, the value he was getting out of Omen on Icebox, like pushing all the way deep on defense, scaling extremely effectively and trading off Asuna more in these kind of scenarios. And then also how active they were being around the map. Like in a lot of these rounds, especially the first one on Icebox, or even their attacking rounds here as well. It's not like they're attacking halves, they blew people out the water, but they were moving around the map much more. They were applying pressure over an A and still working down mid-tube at the same time, that kind of stuff. So Asuna popped.
Yeah.
And that's required for 100 Thieves to do well. But what's also required for 100 Thieves to get third in a tournament like this is the team to be performing way better than they did. So I give it mostly to the team, but with the obvious caveat that Asuna does still need to perform and get those entries for them to be this successful.
Yeah. I agree with everything you said. And I am on the same page where I would, Yeah, I think the team really stepped up specifically. Yeah, I mean, I think Ethan played very well. And also, I think Ethan showed how kind of important he is to 100 Thieves' success, period. That if they have Ethan and Asuna, even just the two of them really on point, that is what that can really drive them to wins. I mean, even in the game on Icebox against V1 where Asuna dropped 48, in regular time, he had like 26 and Ethan had like 22 kills. He was trading off of him really effectively. He was making big round winning plays in his own right, like pushing up aggressively on defense. You got 2 kills, like rounds like that. It was really only in overtime that Asuna just completely took over the game. But I think Ethan had some excellent maps. The sky on Haven was much improved. In fact, their Haven period was much improved. Also due to, I think, Steel being way more aggressive as well. Like his setups on Haven were, they were much closer to the actual like chokes on Haven A. He wasn't playing passively. He was actually being like a rat in the site, trying to get kills on the people pushing in.
Well, he was also pushing all the way up to A lobby sometimes as well, which there's some things they did where I was still like, okay, that if you don't hit your shots, that will still be punished, you know? Which I think some of Steel's setups might fall into that category too, of being like, once you have a good idea of where he's going to play, assuming he doesn't mix it up constantly, and like with his deep pushes all the way to A lobby, if you manage to punish him in some of those areas, that A side of the map does fall to pieces a little bit. Yeah. But I still like that they were innovating. That was a big thing too. That they looked like they'd brought brand new shit for these qualifier games.
I think that's one of the major reasons why I'm pretty excited about the future for them. I'm not necessarily like completely flipping my perception of them, but there was so much new stuff, and it was tailored to let Asuna pop, right? The stuff was built for him in some of these cases, like the icebox rope play that he was consistently doing with Ethan's one little smoke that he's constantly pushing out of, even getting aggressive in the nest with Ethan's smoke, constantly pushing out of and having a way to fall back. And then on Haven, when he's playing Jett too, like you can see those executes are for him to updraft dash over top of stuff. And it's really setting him up to be in those positions where before he had to create that space himself with Reyna on Ascent or something like that, or whatever. You know, it was before him walking into a specific spot and finding a kill. Now it's his teams behind him and the spacing actually feels good.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to stay.
Kurt, can you pull up round 7 from their Haven game against version 1? I guess it would have been actually. Oh, now I can't remember. Was it version 1 or was it Envy? Actually, I think it was Envy. I'm throwing you for a loop here.
Which round do you want to?
Which side were they on? If it was round 7,
yeah,
they were on attack. They were on attack.
Yeah.
Okay, they started on attack against Envy.
Yeah, I think it was the game against Envy. Round 7 against Envy on Haven. I think that's a great demonstration if you just watch Asuna and Ethan move around the map. They're like a little 2-man duo just running all over the place with him just flashing Asuna in, and then they run around to garage and do the same kind of shit. Like 100 Thieves grabbed control of the tempo for a team that's normally quite slow on their attack rounds. They really made Envy play at their pace. Look, they flash him into B, they get the spike plan, and they're instantly moving to retake garage and push it like straight away again with the dog this time. And Asuna manages to get the kill, and they're instantly on another flag. And the pressure is like, Envy at this point are just baffled. I mean, this is one of those key duels that if Asuna loses it, the round falls to pieces a little bit. But he's opening the door here for Ethan to be able to come through afterwards and stop the defuse again. And I don't know. That's way, way more dynamic than you would have seen anyone other than Asuna play before. Ethan wasn't following him in that way and guiding him and guiding his direction. It feels like it's not so much they put a leash on Asuna, but they're kind of directing his unstoppable flow in the right direction.
They're much more synergistic, I would say. That was going to be my observation, was that they just feel, you just see micro plays actually happening now for 100 Thieves that they didn't do before a lot of times, where it felt like there was a lot of just slow, just peeking, like looking for site picks, like looking for an early pick and just like lurking back before, and like Steel would be watching a flank, Asuna would push an angle. Now there's actually set micro plays where particularly with Ethan and Asuna, where they're actually setting up Asuna for success, right? Because to me, when I look at this match, I think Asuna definitely, you could argue he won them some maps, in particular like the Icebox maps they played, where he just like rolled. But like you said, Balla, they were setting him up for success all the time. They were setting him up for success all the time. It felt like Ethan and Austin were actually forming a duo to actually play off utility really well, and they were making sure to put Austin in positions to succeed. And the rest of them were so much more aggressive and active on the map that when Austin was making a play, they were still taking map control somewhere else, or at least they had map info in another area to help them in the push.
I wonder what the narrative of this tournament cycle is going to be, because when I think about their kind of arc of struggling a little against the tier 2 teams, there's many different reasons that could be. One might just be that they don't have a good read on how teams like Noble or Saw are going to play, whereas some of what they were doing here seems specifically tailored to the teams they were playing against. When they played against Envy, they played a bunch of rounds on their offense where they're waiting for Envy to re-push areas on D. You know how Envy always will re-push areas on defense? They'll contact re-clear through Garage or through A lobby, and 100 Thieves were just waiting for them, ready to do it. They didn't do any of that shit against version 1 because version 1 don't play like that. So I feel like, to me, when I'm watching the games, possibly they're struggling against the tier 2 teams because they don't have the same level of prep against the tier 2 teams, and so they haven't formulated a good game plan in the same manner. They're just trying to play off themselves rather than constructing like set stuff that they want to do, or a set game plan for the match. Or it might just be that they were trying to hide some of the set like micro plays that they wanted to pull out later on. But I think either of those is a pretty it explains a lot. Like whichever one you would go for would be a fairly decent excuse, I suppose, for why 100 Thieves were performing slightly worse against the tier 2 teams.
I will say as well, I'm a big fan of this Asuna Jett move. I think that putting him on Jett and I don't know, I know he's been putting in the time just grinding the agent and improving.
Sure.
I think that is another key to them taking this to like the next leveling up a little bit, because I think look, having a good Jett main, it's just kind of, you need one.
83% pick rate at Reykjavik.
You just need a good Jett main. I mean, when you look around the teams that are performing best in the world right now, you've seen it on Ascend, Tens on or Shazam on Sentinels. Like, you need an all-star. You do actually need someone who can be an all-star Jett on certain maps. You just need it. And I think that Austin being able to do that, and also it's not just that he can like play Jett, and he was doing some cool dash up draft, had some good knife kills, that stuff. His opping was kind of crazy.
That's what I was going to ask you about. What did you think about his opping?
I thought it was pretty crazy, and I think that it was crazy, but it didn't look refined. It was.
What do you mean by that?
What I mean by that is that with his style of aim and the way he sets himself up and on certain angles and where he's playing, it all felt very like sporadic, very in the moment, not as calculated as other oppers in regards to where they're positioning themselves and what angles they want to hold. He would just hit some ridiculous shot in some crazy position on someone like flying through the air. It's like, okay, one of
the rounds here in this map, he posted up in backside of B.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Right. It's not like, he's not like a traditional opper. Like, it's not like CNED where he's just always got the perfect line of sight and he's always going to hit the shot as soon like when someone rounds the corner. I think that he clearly has the raw skill for it. I think it's just a matter of refining it. And I think that when he gets to that point, because I don't doubt that he will be able to further improve on Jett and with opping, I think that's another kind of key factor that could take 100 Thieves to a little bit of a bump up.
Where do you see the ceiling being for this team, Balla, Avast? Like, because it's one thing to be able to turn up in a big way during some qualification games, but if we're giving special credit to some of the innovative stuff that they did, new stuff that they brought out, to constantly bring out new stuff has actually been something that 100 Thieves have struggled with a little bit in the past. They've talked about it being a little difficult to completely iterate their game. After the win of First Strike, it took them a long time to get back to that kind of level. So do you feel like this is, okay, 100 Thieves have enough good stuff here, or they've fixed enough fundamentals that we should now expect them to make it to Berlin? Or is this still a wait and see?
I think it has to be a wait and see. I think if you're going off of one event on 100 Thieves, who's historically literally popped off in one event, and then all of a sudden not popped off in the next one in the same fashion. They go back to old habits. They don't have Eco clutching. This, they end up being stagnant. That has happened before. Do I fully believe that it won't, well, that it will happen again? No. So I think that they have a good ceiling. I think that they can, if they play like this, they can achieve, slightly under Sentinels, probably, maybe that same level of gap between the rest of the teams. I think that is fully possible. But do I believe they're going to do that? No.
Okay, Avast.
I think Wyatt's point is really important when I think about Sentinels, is that where does the Asuna Jett go from here? When I think about for 100 Thieves, I should say, because they just need to have a top tier Jett player, and they need Asuna to more than likely be that person for them, be that player for them. And for me, when I look at their play this tournament, I see a lot of great things. We saw them feel like they're a lot more active than before. They're a lot more aggressive. They're working much more synergistically. So all of that looks great. It's just, do they continue to do that? Do they just regress suddenly? And also, does the Asuna Jett get good enough where they're going to be competing against the other top tier Jetts? They're having to play, and someone that's going to consistently be able to make plays and be that clutch factor, especially like on the op too. So I think currently, if they play much like Balla said, if they play like this, I think they'll be fine to make it to. They'd be fine to be in a contention to make it to Berlin. But it's a big ask considering there's still so much up in the air for them. Like if they continue to play like this, and if Asuna's Jett pans out to still be like really good.
There are 3 spots though, right?
Yeah.
In North America.
Yes.
And
There are 3.
They've been a consistent team. It's not like they just haven't been consistently great, which I think has been the criticism of 100
They've been finishing this year around
4th,
6th?
5th?
No, I
Has
mean
it been?
Envy have been.
Oh
pretty
yeah,
much always
XV,
4th.
XSET have been.
So
like
they've been
4th.
around 5th, 6th ish.
Sure.
Much the whole year.
Something like that.
As far as
They
I
have
can remember.
4th in terms of points within North
Right.
America at the moment as well. So,
I mean, they're doing pretty well in regards to the points. Then
this is an incredibly important time in the year to turn up. If they had missed out on this cycle, and if they don't manage to get to Berlin, and they don't manage to accrue extra points, there definitely could have been a world where they get overtaken by, I don't know, like an XSET or a Cloud9 or something like that, and end up falling out of contention for last chance qualifiers, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I also feel like we have to wait and see, though. I actually, after watching this, I do have more confidence. I have a bit more confidence in them, in their future, than I did after previous tournaments or sort of like lackluster performances. Right. The main reasons being, I do like the Asuna Jett, and also I felt like they were just, as a team, playing with a lot more pace than I had seen previously.
Yeah.
And it felt like within that, though, it felt like they had suddenly just gotten a lot more confidence in them, too. The players just look more confident, like Asuna aside.
Yeah.
And I thought that made a huge difference. Like they were playing like they knew they were good, which I don't know, but yeah, just previously
we
I felt
talked
like
about that last week.
That.
We talked about that last week a little bit, where I was saying these guys, I don't believe they are unconfident, but they play like they're not confident because they don't scale effectively off Asuna's space that he creates and that kind of stuff. They're quite passive. Like a lot of them were sat towards the back of the pack, but I didn't think it was necessarily a confidence issue. It's just the same kind of symptoms that come up when you're not confident. To me, the biggest thing seems to be that they have a game plan. Like these players have attached themselves to a plan that they're executing in these rounds. And I wonder whether that has been like.
Believe that
what?
Steel does not have a game plan for those games that they lost. Like I feel like that has been always one of Steel's major strengths, because he always understands the value of a game plan, the value of doing certain things in certain ways at certain times throughout the game, and then switching them and whatnot. Like that has always been something that I've found very strong with 100 Thieves. It's just when they get pressed on that game plan, sometimes it looks like it might fall apart, and all of a sudden it looks unconfident. I don't think that before it's like, oh, we didn't have a game plan. I think it's before our game plan didn't work, and we didn't know how to go from there.
Yeah, I guess the point that I'm trying to get to is the game plan felt extremely proactive rather than reactive this time, where they're always the team that's not necessarily attacking, but defining the tempo of the game. Especially when you play against a team like Envy, who normally tried to do that to you. They were really controlling the game against Envy, but by pressuring them and just catching all of their aggression in really smart ways.
I think that
very good.
One thing, with the Asuna changes and or how it looks like Asuna is being able to be backed up more and how we're setting him up more as 100 Thieves is coming less so from a specific this is a set. We got to make sure that when we plan B, we're running back into garage and getting Ethan to flash through. I think it's a lot more to do with Asuna plays with such higher pace than us in general, right? And so as a result, we have to do everything we can to stay on top of him, right? So Ethan is now following him like Ethan is leashed to Asuna or somebody else is leashed to Asuna, which will change the dynamic a lot. That happens a lot of times. IGLs will notice this a lot, that there's just a team, there's a player, or you play a specific pace that is higher and you're always 2 steps ahead of everybody else, and they're not behind you. They're not there ready to flash you in. They're not there ready to do whatever, because that play is there as an instant. And fixing that is massive if that continues to stay.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of fundamental things that 100 Thieves look like they've done at least some level of work to try to shore up. But the team that actually ended up beating them in the upper bracket was XSET, which is unusual that they were in that position in the first place. So let's talk about the other side of the bracket, because we got both sides of the bracket fucking wrong, because 100 Thieves popped off and then XSET managed to beat Sentinels on their side. So that to me was a wild thing to see, just the score of XSET has beaten the team that went undefeated, did not drop a map at Reykjavik. And I remember last week asking you guys what the form of Sentinels looked like. And outside of a couple of moments, you're saying they generally looked like the same team that was there from Reykjavik. What's your takeaway from this week's games with Sentinels? Did you still think that this was like Sentinels at peak form and XSET beat them?
I still think Sentinels were on point. I mean, they did win at the end of the day. They won the tournament.
Yeah, they won the tournament.
I do still think they're on point. I thought this was just a phenomenal game from XSET. I mean, I think it's one of those situations where everything comes together at the same time, and it's just, it feels like you just can't make a wrong decision, because I felt like on Haven and Split, they really didn't. I mean, I thought they just played those maps incredibly well. Their attack sides, I mean, they're just so good now. They are much improved from the past, which was that is what we kept going off about, because that literally just was the case. XSET could not perform on attack hubs, and that is presumably why they brought in Def, a true IGL, to come in and fix that. And then at the same time, so on top of bringing in a guy to fix the attack apps, which even with the previous roster, that might have been the difference that could have taken them over the top, and pushed them to the next level. But then they also bring in Zekin, who clearly added a lot of firepower, but not in just regards to his actual aim versus Thwyfo, because I think Thwyfo is still a very good player, but Zekin added a lot of I don't know if confident firepower is the right way to phrase it, but he's a more proactive player. He's just more of a playmaker, which they kind of were lacking, I think, to an extent as well. He's a playmaker, and that's
just say star power. He's got the star power.
Yeah, star power is a good word. Yeah, no. Time. Oh, by the way, what you said last week is completely correct.
What was that?
Balla was talking about how Zekin is they need XSET, the organization of the team, need a face of the team or a star of the team.
Someone
I mean,
root
he's definitely going to be that. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So I think the combination of those two things took them over the top. They were just playing an excellent game. That's where I'm at with it.
Their attack hubs are so much better. That's the number one thing I noticed, especially and when you watch Haven, especially Haven versus Sentinels, that's Sentinels map. That's one of their maps that they had an 89% win rate on this heading into this match or something. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And XSET just their control and their rotations were just amazing. They always they would push an extremity, get some info, be okay, we're gonna out rotate. They would also be able to execute on the sites for free so often, because they could just somehow they were just able to lurk through a lot of the setups from Sentinels, very often, especially through garage side, and they just weren't able to stop them and stop the side hits. And I definitely, the Zekin ad has been a lot has been really helpful for just like getting the very key kills. But for me, I mean, the MVP of the entire series is definitely like BCJ a lot of the ways, because BCJ just fucking popped off this whole series, like actually popped the fuck off the entire time. And his utility is just so good still. So I was so impressed with XSET doing this. I mean, Sentinels is still one, still like the best team in North America, but I'm feeling good about XSET after watching some of their maps there, including obviously this one.
One of the big things that I noticed watching this game was how prepared XSET were, specifically for Sentinels. Like how much they had anti-stratted the not in like a specific way of we are literally going to move to this pixel and throw this piece of utility, but just every time they pushed C, they knew where Dapper was going to be. You have I think it was like the first anti-eco, maybe it was like round 2 or something. They're pushing deep into backside, trying to catch the people from Sentinels that funnel in. And then in the round that you just saw there, maybe it was round 11 or something like that, they're holding on site, waiting for the cages to drop, ready to spam the shit out of logs and out of the platform, which are where Dapper and Shaz normally path to in the rounds. And then there was another one as well where they put up the cosmic divide, and Sick wiggled maybe it was Zoms, wiggled his way onto logs. They flashed it to make sure someone was in logs, and then spammed it with 2 shock darts behind their own cosmic divide. It's like they just knew exactly what Sentinels wanted to do on that map. And that, I think, that reminds me pretty heavily of the times in the past where a team has been on the come up and has been able to defeat Sentinels. The time when they lost to Envy, the time when they lost to LG. It's these kind of these matches where the other team knows what Sentinels wants to do because they've seen it in 1,000 games before. And that to me really pushed them over the edge of just having a great read and understanding of what was happening, which I assume some of that is going to come from Def as well. Or maybe because Def handles more of the macro stuff, BCJ is freed up to do some of the...
I mean, that is true as well.
They have 2 brains on the team to be able to handle that kind of shit.
Could also certainly be why BCJ is... Like, lest we forget that BCJ is a really good player individually. I mean, it also probably helps him to just have the freedom to play.
Yeah,
game.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel very good about
I think
this
him and Pure felt like they were more free than they've ever been in a while. And I don't know, I don't specifically understand how Pure gets free in this case with the transition, or maybe it's just how the team is playing. But BCJ obviously is not calling anymore and has Def to call for him. So just that freedom as well clearly made a difference for both Pure and BCJ.
I think this round actually that Kurt is showing is such a great example of what they were doing so well on Split. Like every time Sentinels would push and take an area, XSET would just immediately re-clear it. They didn't respect it at all. Like I think it was in this round, Sentinels early on had, like Shazam had early pushed down mid, they had pressured down, and XSET just immediately re-cleared it, and then they just walked up through Mail and win the round. I mean, it was
They were also popping off individually. I mean, the confidence must have been there in buckets and spades. But Tens and Shaz will normally give you rounds on split attack by being able to find those first picks. They got shut down. They were like 7-10 in terms of first kills to first deaths. That doesn't normally happen. The XSET guys were really playing on an individual basis to a really high level when it came to split.
Is this a honeymoon? Dare we say it's a dreaded honeymoon here?
I mean, that is what I was kind of getting at the beginning, was that I do think it does look to have all the makings of a honeymoon period, because again, it's like everything just comes together at once and it just feels like, holy shit, we fixed everything, the confidence is there, etc. But at the same time, we can't ignore that they did fix the problems. And crucially, I mean, it was just one massive problem that has been fixed. So even if maybe this is a high point game for them, and they, on average, will perform a little bit worse than in this Sentinels game, but still have the ability to, on the right day, perform at this level, I mean, that is still just a massive improvement from where they are. Or where they were, excuse me.
To define where they were, I mean, they were sat at like, we will qualify, but in 4th place of essentially every single time, right? Mm-hmm. They never felt that they were almost 2 steps behind Sentinels because they still had to take a step up to get to the point where they were in second place in North America. And then it's a step up for every other team to be able to beat Sentinels consistently and be the best team in NA. So I feel like they've taken that one step up. The second one, if you're expecting them to beat Sentinels on the regular, no. That's some honeymoon shit. But to me, I do think they've taken that one step where now you should expect them to be competing for finals, for semifinals, and looking like they can win those games. Whereas before it was like, okay, they'd win the quarters, and then, you know, they have an okay chance in the semi. Now it's like you should be expecting them to make the semi every time, and they have a great shot of being able to win it. That's my improved expectations for XSET moving forwards.
They have been one of the best teams outside of, it's basically them and Envy have been the best qualifier teams in NA. Like, well, probably besides Sentinels, but even with Sentinels, it's like, they didn't make it through that open qualifier the one time. So XSET and Envy have been the best qualifier teams. However, XSET has always peaked at the wrong time to do that, basically, because when it comes to the playoffs, when it comes to Challengers Finals, Masters 1, they fall hard. They fall very hard. So that will be what they need to fix, and it will be these periods between now and then that they need to make sure that they're able to keep that level of intensity, the level of confidence and whatnot. And I think that with Dev, they can. I think that they'll have stuff that they are clearly working on. I mean, you're talking about that like Astral Wall type of thing where they're shocking behind and having beautiful sets and understanding exactly what, like, everybody's talking about their attack side changes as well. That stuff, if they continue to work on it, I think gives them the drive that they need to be in a position to get towards Berlin. Like in third, potentially, you know, fall out just barely, but it's there now. And I don't think I think the honeymoon period type thing doesn't bring them anywhere else. I think it's just more improvement underneath that once they fall from it.
I do want to touch on the initial question that I asked, though, about Sentinels, because my impression of the game, the Sentinels XSET game, was slightly different to yours as well.
Oh, okay.
Because what I noticed from watching them play was a number of moments where they were going for the content plays. You know how Shaz was talking about trying to rein 10s in and they're playing extraordinarily disciplined?
Yeah.
I thought there were definitely some moments where it's that, like, insane discipline and focus that separates, to me at least, elite Sentinels from good Sentinels. You know, they're always going to be good enough to be able to qualify in these events, but when shit is really on the line, it's not that their players get better at fragging, but they don't even give you an in. You know. Whereas when I was watching this game, I could see moments, especially from TenZ, even though he finishes the series at like plus 20 or something, where he's just running in, making the play. On Split, it happened a couple of times where his team's regrouping for a retake, and he just ran in through CT trying to catch someone off guard as they were planting, and he got punished for those. And I feel like that's the kind of stuff that they weren't doing at Reykjavik that made them untouchable. And so I think it's still amazing that XSET were able to get in, even though they only opened like a crack in the door. But I do think that this was... I guess my point is, I don't think that XSET... If XSET were playing like this at Reykjavik, I don't think they would have won Reykjavik, you know? I don't think that this was them playing the best we've ever seen a team play in the world. I think that Sentinels still kind of holds that down.
I think that's fair. I feel like a bit of the difference, though, to me, though, is just that I think Sentinels are still at that level, though, and it's just, I don't know, it's just the confidence from knowing that they are just the best, like clearly the best team, that they're just kind of going for some of those plays. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not saying it's a bad thing for Sentinels moving forward at all.
Yeah. Maybe does it come from the fact that basically we see these, you know, slight flubs in these online games in qualifiers and whatnot, and we understand that is not necessarily a signal for Sentinels form down the line, because they did the same type of lower bracket run, and that to me is more significant in their future performance than in indicating their future performance than, you know, TenZ going for a content player, Dapper trying to go for, you know, some silliness. You know what I'm saying?
And my point here is that, I mean, Sentinels still won the event, and I think it's just a toggle switch for them. They can choose to play that hyper disciplined style if they want to, if there's enough on the line.
If the situation,
And if
calls
they
for
hadn't
it.
done that at Reykjavik, if we were watching this game pre-Reykjavik, it would make me think, well, damn, Sentinels still do have some like things that they need to shore up. But the fact I've seen it, the fact they've proven that they can do that over the course of an entire LAN tournament means to me that I'm not going to doubt them, even if they play a whole qualifier just fucking around.
Yep.
Because I
And
know
they
that
came-
it's just a toggle switch for them.
And they came through to Reykjavik before looking like the disciplined gods, looking like the worst. Like, remember, I was saying
They were way
specifically
worse than they
looked
were
like
in
the
this
worst
game.
That Sentinels, exactly. So my point is, to the original question, is Sentinels still in good form? Are they still in Reykjavik form? I answer yes, because of all the past, and also they look better than they looked throughout the last qualifier. Way better. Remember losing to BBG, having the terrible Astra start in Challengers 2, and then finally in Challengers 1, it's like, okay, well, they made it, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should probably update the lower third. I think we're just talking about Sentinels now.
Yeah.
I think we've just wandered into the next topic.
Yeah,
which is just
they are winning everything.
they are just winning everything. I mean, that's the thing as well, right? Like that game, not that it. I don't want to be this guy, but it's like it's not that it.
be the guy.
I'm gonna be the guy. I don't want it, but
the guy.
I have to. It's not that Sentinels. Obviously, Sentinels want to win that game, and I think what's even more impressive is that it's that match that XSET did win, because that is the game that qualifies you for the next round at the end of the day. So if there were ever a match to matter more than the other matches in this, that would probably be the one, right? So a lot of credit for XSET winning that, but also, XSET were playing like it was the game of their lives, and Sentinels just
playing like it's another qualifier.
It's just another game,
Yeah.
and they already. I feel like Sentinels are playing like they already know they're going to win Berlin. Like they just. That's
Yeah.
what it looks like to me. And then they just kind of run through the lower bracket, and Tens just drops 50 every game on everyone's heads, and it's just it's over.
Yeah.
I mean, so.
I don't
Look,
think you can. There was a lot of. I went back and watched a VOD last night of the Sentinels XSET game, and I took a look at the Twitch chat as well, because I wanted to see what the reaction was from the people when Sentinels lose. Are they just saying stuff like, "Oh, well, I mean, it's just a pointless game. Sentinels are going to win, etc." It's just, it's just TSM is better than Sentinels. TSM didn't even qualify in round of 128, and it's just Wardell is better than Shazam, and just. I mean, people don't have a brain, but I don't think that you can seriously take away any doubt from this tournament from Sentinels. Even though there was a bump in the road.
Josh, you just gave so much firepower to the Plat chat haters who are fucking like, this show is only them repeating Twitch chat and Reddit takes.
It's
now.
wild though.
He looks at Twitch chat.
I did look at Twitch chat last night.
Confirmed proof that he only gets everything from Twitch chat. This is it. We've been found out. The script writers are all Twitch chatter. Meme Lord 69. They're all. That's where we get all of our points from. I do think though that. I don't know. I don't know when I can ever start doubting Sentinels again at this point. Like, when do we even start? When are we even able to doubt Sentinels again? Like, what is the criteria, right? Because I feel like I'm agreeing with everything. Because, like, I was watching.
If they don't make Berlin.
If they don't make Berlin,
what if
sure,
they go
I guess.
I don't know. What if they make it and then they just lose to every EU team? They just run the gauntlet of EU teams and lose to every EU team.
It's triple elimination.
And
they lose to all
Ascend
of
is
them.
coming.
Yep.
Yeah. So I just don't know. They're just. It just feels like when they lose, I feel like I'm dealing with like a boss battle where like they just have multiple stages and it's fine. They'll be back next time. They'll win the next round. It's fine. Because
like
it's not
Sekiro.
just about like the toggle.
You kill the ape in Sekiro and then he just comes back.
And he comes back to life. Yes, that is legitimately. And it's not just the toggle either. It's the fact that like I also feel like they're just so. They just, whenever they make a mistake too, I feel like they don't normally make that same mistake twice in the same tournament. If they make like a bad mistake in like a map or a series. And so they just always learn. They're a self-learning AI that self-regenerates, a self-regenerated monkey AI. You know, that's what they are.
Dude.
It just feels like I can't doubt them. I don't know where to poke holes.
I'm terrible at Souls games and I never really played them. And I was playing last year at the house when we were in LA. We were playing Sekiro, Kurt had me play the ape,
ape,
and after like an hour and a half, I finally beat it, and I was like, "Oh, thank fucking God!" And Kurt's just like,
It is.
And then it just comes back to life. Dude, my face when that ape came back to life, I mean, I was about to that TV was going to get thrown out the window, dude. I was so mad.
It is an amazing moment in game.
Mad.
That's what I feel like it feels like for any team playing against Sentinels in any double elimination bracket. You beat the ones, they're just going to come back and even stronger because they're not giving 100% all the time.
Yet, so it's just
EU hasn't taken a map off them.
And I really, I mean, yeah, despite, I mean, how many maps did they lose in this run, Kurt? Could you pull it up again? They lost the one map to Sonics, where I think Sonics were just insane.
Oh, true.
They lost the 2 maps or 3 maps to XSET, I guess, because of the final they lost.
Right.
I don't know. I feel like they didn't really skip a beat.
Oh, they lost
even
one to Gen.G as well.
Oh, right. Yeah. Gen.G kept it really close. Okay. I mean, so yeah, they lost a few maps, but that's nothing crazy. Like Gen.G were in good form. I don't think they skipped.
All part of NA propaganda. Sentinels is literally throwing one map at a time so that they can be like Iceland. They lost 0 maps. NA. They beat them like 6 maps at a time.
Yeah.
EU's trash.
Yeah, it's true. They're just getting into EU's head before Berlin. It's all part of the master plan. Yeah. I mean, Sentinels are continuing to do... we haven't seen them play on Breeze yet, right? I don't think we've...
They played in the finals against XSET.
Oh, they played in the finals.
Yeah,
I didn't watch the finals.
And against like... they played it twice. They played it also in the lower bracket another time. It's like Envy or something.
Oh, really? Okay.
But seeding games, so I don't know. My brain is off.
Yeah, exactly. So...
They played 3 times. This is how much I pay attention to the seeding games. Grand finals, 100 Thieves as well, and then
Okay. Right. Well, like I said, I didn't watch the seeding games, so I'm unaware of those. But I think that Sentinels, I mean, even if they don't make Berlin, they're still locked in for champions. So even if the worst did happen and they didn't make Berlin, you'd still be like, oh, you got to give it a while. Maybe they'll bounce back. At this point, they've already built up such a bank of reputation that it would be very hard to have a serious doubt about them.
I can't see them.
No, I don't think there's any way. Well, we've already talked about 3 teams, though, that have good shots of being able to make Berlin. 100 Thieves, if they continue playing like this. XSET are looking great. Sentinels as well are just a lock. Envy would have previously been one of the teams that you point at and say, this is a team that should be making it to Berlin. They should have that quality on their team to be able to make a deep run. They've been good in all of the qualifiers previously, too. They have just cemented their position as the 4th best team right now, it feels. And maybe 3rd, but they've been finishing 4th in so many of the tournaments.
Yeah, we got to get the historians on this one, but they came in 4th in the first, at the end of the first Masters 1. They came in 4th.
And first strike.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Was it 4th and first strike as well? Yeah. They came in 4th and first strike. They came 4th in Masters 1.
There's like
and
a
then
thing
in the
on the
Challenger
right of the
final
here we go.
For Iceland, they came in 4th as well.
Yeah, all right. So they came 3rd in something. What was the thing they came 3rd in? What even is that? Is that Challengers final?
That's the first Challengers.
Oh, that's Challengers 1. Okay.
Sure. Okay. Well, they came 3rd there, but they've been.
Remember
4th
that was the one that they started toss. Like they put Victor on Sky, and everybody's like, "Oh,
it was that." Yeah. Okay. Who cares? That doesn't count.
See, they actually look good in that one as well.
Talking about the ones
that threw it away.
The ones that count.
Oh, now you're going deep into the past, Kurt. What are you looking at there?
CLG Blitz Cup. I don't even. All right, give me
Jack Gamers in the finals.
Who would you? The thing is, though. I mean, who would you put above Envy? You know, they keep finishing 4th.
See, that's the thing. Their actual ranking might be higher. Envy are the most consistent team in NA outside of Sentinels. They have to be.
I mean, maybe XSET you could argue are more consistent.
But they get lower placements at the end, so they're just not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They get it in the qualifier, and then they usually get beaten by Envy in the actual, the like Challenger final, whatever. It's Envy who are always finishing at the top. It's just that they are always just outside of making it to the event, or like I don't know, like a podium finish, right?
There's a rotating number of people that are finishing above them, and so you can't put your finger on one as being, like the above them.
Yeah, because it's like, okay, well,
Gen.G?
even who do we put that in this year when they've made 4th? the teams that finished above them, aside from Sentinels, in the first one, it was Gen.G and FaZe. I rate Envy higher than both those teams in terms of consistency. And then in the other one, it was Cloud9 and Version1. And I think maybe you might even still rate Envy above Version1 in terms of consistency, because Version1 really, they made Iceland, but there hasn't been anything else. So
well, it depends if you take the whole of 2021, because Version1 weren't doing anything at Masters 1 as well.
Right. So. And then they were like on the come up. And so that one, there's some, you could argue about that. And that's reasonable. But point being, Envy are absolutely up at the top. They're very consistent.
The other teams to put up there are like XSET and 100 Thieves, who finished above them in the original challenges. But, I mean, you're not going to put those guys above Envy at this point, probably. I don't know. It's hard to argue that they're not in, like...
I think one of the biggest reasons why you wouldn't argue is that they haven't really shown any potential past a fourth, third type of place. Whereas the other guys have shown this potential. XSET has been playing. They just beat Sentinels. They beat Sentinels, and they played fantastic in that series. 100 Thieves looks like they fixed their issues. XSET fixing their issues. Envy, they fixed maybe their role issues because they swapped a player, but anything else? Like, is there anything good to say about, potential?
Well, look, this was the first time we saw them with Marv. I think it was a good roster move. I think Marv fits into the roster well. I think that they were playing. I like in regards to how aggressive they were playing at times on defense. I mean, I say at times they were just sending it on defense. I mean, they were sending it on defense. And to a reasonable amount of success. I think that Victor looks way better on the Raze now. Like I think when he plays Arena, there's a bit left to be desired. Honestly, I think they might want to just leave the Arena and the agent select screen.
I didn't watch most of their games.
What?
How many times did he do that? Because I casted the game where he did that against was it Pioneers? Did he do that more, or was that just that?
Wait, what are you referring to?
Victor on Reyna on a set.
Oh, he definitely did that more. I mean, yeah, okay. I think that they need to leave the Reyna and the agent select. But when he's on Phoenix and Raze, his Raze looks really good now too. So I like what they have with that. The crucial thing for me with the team right now is just what Mummy's level is going to be. Because this move has put Mummy in position to be a star for the team. He's on full-time Jett. His opping is really good, but it's just not really good all the time. I think that he's one of those guys that it looks like he hits the really hard shots. He hits some insane shots with like a pretty high level of consistency, but the actual consistency with just the shots that you need to hit when you're investing in the op, he's just not always there. I think that Mummy really needs to just be the guy for this team. They put him in position to be, and I think he has the skills. I think it's a matter of the consistency of it.
I think it's quite unusual the way that Envy has... It's quite unusual the way that Envy works, honestly, because they've now put Mummy in a position where they want him to be defensively opping a lot. They've got him on Jett, but his Jett skills are more towards him being an opper rather than being like this cracked out Jett player that's going to push on defense. But a lot of the rest of their team loves pushing, re-clearing areas on defense. And so when I watch them, a large amount of the time, the rounds are decided and defined by what those players are doing, not by what Mummy is really doing. Because it's not... I don't feel like Mummy is the... it's not like a lot of other teams where they're going to sit back and wait for you to push into the ops crosshair. Envy tend to take the fight to you. And so if you deal with that effectively, well, now Mummy's like retaking some area of the map with the op, or he's... or the round has already been won by Envy because of that aggressive push on defense. I feel like the two styles have yet to be blended properly together. And it's almost like they've put Mummy in a position to succeed by just... It seems like their game plan is we'll post you up on one area of the map with the op, and we'll try and play pretty aggressively on the other. The idea being to like drive players into Mummy's op. But a lot of what the other NA teams are doing is just trying to deal with the aggression rather than reactively push other areas of the map. And so you end up having this uncomfortable or not uncomfortable, but like an AWPer that isn't getting the value that you've created your entire roster around. I think the Envy are almost getting a little one-dimensional in terms of how aggressive they're playing the defense. When I was watching the Envy game against 100 Thieves, for example, 100 Thieves are a team that have, I don't know, I feel like they should not be the caliber of team where Envy are just getting 2-0'd by 100 Thieves, and yet they completely read all of the defensive aggression, gobbled it up, and it wasn't effective. I don't think you can play that much of a predictable game plan.
That's how this game, the Pioneers came back, was that Envy started off on their defense really, really like working the map very well, and then all of a sudden KCP just decided, hey, we're just gonna play against that, and Envy had to revert to not playing these aggressive things, and they just started throwing rounds, if I remember correctly. That's how it felt, and so just proving more your point in my mind.
And
Do you
it's
think
not that
that's
it's a
where the
bad
Marv
style.
swap hurts them though? Because we talked about how Marv with FaZe, the look with FaZe, that Marv is also like a mega aggressive. And obviously it's not just Marv being aggressive in this team. Their team is like you talked about, where they're doing very aggressive defensive plays. And a lot of this is trying to set up Mummy to be an AWPer, right? But not necessarily to be like a cracked Jett player. So does Marv, if they're putting themselves into this box of this extremely aggressive team, does Marv part of the reason they're being put into that box, or do you feel like this is just the identity that they currently feel is their best style?
I think it's their identity. I think that if I think about how Envy has played when they've been at their best, it's when they get value out of that. It's with like Victor playing Phoenix on defense, pushing out areas, like flashing into your spawn when he's on defense, like that. Those are the moments where Envy have been at their best, is when they get value out of that. But to me, they just need a plan B. It's not that I think Marv fit into this team well because he can take the stuff that he was doing on FaZe, make it smarter, like make the timings much smarter and more coordinated with his team, and refine that. I don't think Marv's a finished product yet, but I think he fits into the team pretty well. But they as a team as a whole, I think, need a plan B. When that aggression, when the attacking team starts holding slowly to deal with that aggression, you need an adjustment yourself to take advantage of the fact that they're playing slowly. To like start posting the op up in
that's
in more like common trafficked areas. Have other set play kind of pieces on defense.
You're getting at a good point there. I mean, that's when the op should be able to shine, where you should be able to find, or attempt to find a pick on defense if the attacking team is slowed down.
He was really good on that on Haven.
Yeah,
Like
on Haven, Mummy's always that's Mummy's map is Haven. That's where you can always rely on him. Also a great map for Victor too. Like that makes sense that is a go-to map for them. At the end of the day, though, when we're talking about them being so aggressive on defense, and you're mentioning it being one-dimensional, and I think at a point, it does feel sometimes in these games like, where is the tempo switch? Because it's just over and over. And is this just a cause of being on a team with Victor? I mean, I don't think he has. It's just he's never looked like a player who has an off button, and I feel like they've tried to build around him, which.
But I think they've done a good job of building around him.
Yeah, and I think they've done a good job of building around him too. And I think he's a nasty good player. He is insane in regards to just outright winning rounds, getting kills. He's an excellent star player on a team. But is that just a cause of playing with him? That's just a question I'm posing.
I mean, he is always the tip of the spear. When they're reclearing areas or pushing aggressively on defense, it's normally Victor leading it. I mean, Marv will sometimes do it on his own now, but they never really played. Like, Caboose didn't really do that as much as Marv does. But yeah, I think that's part of it. But I don't think that's something you want to take away from Victor, because that is part of their success. You just also need to build in the second aspect, where you change the tempo at some point during the game. Or maybe start in a much more passive manner so that you catch people off guard as you swap the tempo up aggressively again in the second half.
We keep saying that like Marv is a good, it's been good. I want to bring that back up and kind of ask the question of, is it Marv specifically that is good, or is it the situation that Envy was in where they could slot literally any controller player into that slot and they'd get the same value?
I mean, listen, that's a pretty good
Because
question.
I'm feeling like, why not have just forced Caboose to play controller, and that would have had the same impact? No.
Well, Caboose, I think, has like full on. I think
seems
he said
like
he was
he-
taking a break from
No,
esports
he
in
said,
general or
yeah,
something?
it was
Yeah.
announced that they fully let him go, like he left the NV roster totally, and that he said he's going to take a hiatus from esports.
Okay. Hypothetically, I
Right.
didn't see that, but even still,
Sure.
hypothetically, because I'm not actually proposing that they, should have done that. I'm just saying, is Marv really working in this team, or is it just the circumstance that they were in leading to, replacing or getting a new controller player so that Mame can open up? Is that what's really working?
Well, I think it would have been a bad move if you'd found a controller player that was very, I'm gonna say very supportive here, but what I mean is like almost too slow. If you didn't have a controller player that was willing to go at the same tempo as the rest of Envy, then I think it could have been a bad move. And Marv's definitely like a high tempo controller player. He's gonna be willing to back Victor up when he's going on these crazy moves, or push with the team and scale with them really aggressively. But I don't think that it's a unique thing that only he could have done it. But I do think it's a better look for him than when he was on FaZe.
Yeah. Also,
For him.
I mean, individually, I think he's. I'm not sure who else.
Well, who else would you have picked, Balla?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's good individually. I think especially actually when he's been on the lurk for Envy, he seems to find good value consistently. I think he's been good on the team, and I think he's a good player. He is really good in regard to mechanics and all that. His skills are really high. I'm not mad at it. I think that it's I think you're telling two truths, honestly. Like, I think Marv works, but also there's probably a bunch of people, maybe not a bunch, but there are other people that they could have slotted in to do something similar. I think that, both are kind of true.
There's still lots of time, though, to see how this team develops, I feel. Where I feel like it's not been a very long time, right?
I guess it's not necessarily that I'm seeing that this is going to be a problem for them, but I am fearful that Marv will become the J.R. Smith of Valorant, in a sense. Like,
I don't know what that means. You have lost me with that reference.
Oh, come on. Okay. It's an NBA player who played on the Cavs. He played on a bunch of teams. He was just a fool. He would do the craziest, ridiculous things down fourth quarters.
I know what he's pulling up. Kurt's typing. I know what I think. Go on.
Explain to me the legend.
So there's a playoff game. I think it was Eastern Conference Finals. LeBron's on the team or whatever, and J.R. Smith, they're up, like, and you're supposed to hold the ball. You're not supposed to shoot. You're not supposed to do anything. And he gets into a position, and he just fucking chucks it up, and they end up losing the game in overtime because of it. And it's a legendary clip. LeBron's like, "Oh, what the fuck?"
Oh,
and
I do remember
probably
that
seen
clip.
the
Yes,
meme where LeBron's like,
yeah.
So I mean, that defuse shit I have to bring up.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Okay,
That's the relation. That's where I thought of that. I'm just like, what the fuck is this? Like that is a J.R. Smith moment, and I think that shit is going to happen again. This is the moment. Yep, it's in the finals, the fucking finals. This is J.R. Smith running it out, 1.6 seconds. He fucking gets the ball in the corner, and they're going to overtime, and he's like fucking just.
Yeah, that is outrageous.
Anyways, it's moments like that, and that happens consistently. Consistently?
Did you say you had a clip that was like a Marv to J.R. Smith moment?
Yeah, it was when Marv
12 rounds, NV 100 Thieves Haven, last round.
Yeah,
Nitro.
It's when he forgot to defuse.
Oh Christ! Yeah. Okay. Well, let's take a look at that again, because there was two of them there though. It was Marv and Victor, wasn't it? Or
well,
Marv
it was
both.
Marv halved it and let go.
I think it was.
Yeah,
Mame was alive
to let the other player get the defuse, but they didn't realize. They didn't realize it was the last round.
Yeah,
he just halved it and walked away. They lost the round.
Yeah, that's quite tragic. I've only ever seen that like. Actually, no, I haven't seen that. The thing that I'm thinking of is like when G2 got ninja diffused by a complete amateur team in like the round of 64 or something, because they were just so determined to push.
It's
Yeah.
funny you say G2 because that G2 did that in I think they were playing another French team or something in CS:GO, and they just forgot to defuse. There's been moments like that in CS, but in any case, I think this is the first time we're really seeing it on a high level in Valorant.
This is absurd as well because this allowed Nitro to essentially win a 1v4 as well.
Yeah. They do. They even put up the Red Bull clutch graphic. They put up the graphic.
They need a Red Bull throw graphic, just the throw of the week.
Well, surely they wouldn't want to use Red Bull for that. They want to get a different sponsor for the throw.
Okay, well, you pick
Yeah,
a competing energy drink and you call it the throw of the week. You tarnish their reputation with it.
This is a nasty clutch.
What were they doing? Were they trying to pick up an op?
No, he said that he's just used to, as Omen, halving it and letting his teammate get it because the Omen ult's not good. And then he runs back and tries to get it, and Red Bull clutch.
But he didn't comment to Victor of like, I'll half.
I don't
or
know.
Something.
I don't know. I mean, it's whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. It's wild to think about how that situation even occurs because like.
Yeah.
You know
what it
like
reminds me of?
what communication breakdown?
In the Ignition series, when Sabrosa was at the end in like a 1v3 and he kills two of them and he thought he'd won the round. And he just sprayed the floor and then he just walked around the corner and got killed by the other guy.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
That's like the same scenario where you as a player, you just haven't taken in all of the information. And so you come to the wrong conclusions. It feels like it could happen to anyone, but it doesn't. It doesn't.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
I have one more thing. I don't want to see any other fucking NA players outside of Nitro and Ethan playing Omen. I don't know. These guys are just way better on Omen than anybody else in the scene. Like Vanity playing Omen was underwhelming on Icebox and other maps that they're doing it. Everybody else who's playing Astra instead of Omen is getting much more value.
Yeah.
The only people who are getting value is Nitro and Ethan because they are so innovative consistently with their smokes and their micro little smokes that they throw in the clutches, that they throw to assist teammates and shit like that. It's just so much better.
Yeah.
I don't want to see it anymore.
Big facts.
yeah, they are incredibly good at it.
I think that
he do be spitting.
he is. I think that Astra got kicked to the curb a little too fast. I do think that. I think too many teams just went right back to the Omen.
All right, wait there. Let's get onto this topic, and then we'll maybe slide in a slight little meta topic. But let's get onto this next one first, and let's finish out the North American region because we had two teams that we had relatively high expectations for. One that I think we all had very high expectations for, Version1. Although again, they're playing with a sub, so it complicates things. And then Gen.G too. So the question here is, did they really disappoint? When you look at their run through the bracket and their performance in the matches themselves, were these disappointing performances from these two teams, or did they just end up getting beaten? In my opinion, when I look at Version1, that's who I want to start with because they made Iceland. In that upper bracket game when they played against 100 Thieves, I thought they played a good game. I thought they looked good when they were playing that match. I think, requiring Asuna to drop whatever the hell it was, 48 kills or
48
something.
kills on Icebox,
I mean, Thief had a great game too.
Yeah, he did. He had a great game. And on Icebox in general, they still played well.
Yeah.
But then it felt like they got completely outplayed on Haven. And then it all, I guess, fell to pieces in the lower bracket. I didn't even catch this game. What the hell happened here?
This was at like 1 a.m. and nobody's watching anymore.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Yeah. Good question on this one because this is another match I did not watch.
Yeah, I don't think I was wanting to watch that one. I'm going to be honest.
How crazy is that, though? That's like the biggest upset of the tournament, though, isn't it? Yeah, it really is. Like, Version1 made Iceland, and then they get knocked out by KCP. That's the biggest upset.
We were actually spitting facts that KCP was going to upset somebody in that lower bracket game.
You said 100 Thieves. You said 100 Thieves.
Yeah, I did not say Version1.
Doesn't matter.
No, I'm going to rewrite history, and I'm going to say that I'm pretty sure we said if whoever would have lost that upper final or upper bracket game, if they went to the lower bracket, KCP would have
did actually say that.
Okay.
That is what we said.
Okay.
All
right.
You guys were snoozing on KCP.
Revisionist.
People were snoozing on them. They're actually they are a pretty good team.
But do you think this was an upset?
Like an old day for
Do I think that was an upset? I mean, I don't know. On paper, I don't think it's crazy. No. Version1 with a sub losing to upcoming team that have been grinding hard. I don't think that's crazy.
But that's kind of using the same expectations that I had for version 1 at Iceland, where I was like, okay, well, version 1 with a sub, it's not crazy if they lose to fucking who knows what kind of team because they're playing with a sub.
You were spitting facts.
Does version 1 just get to continue to have a
did it?
sub forever and there's no expectations? Because I feel like they just had a sub for like all the major tournaments recently, and so it's just like, well, version 1 can do anything.
Eventually, they're going to run out of luck. I'm pretty sure I said this last episode. Eventually, they're going to run out of luck with their subs or how they're feeling with their subs and whatever, because this is the 4th tournament in a row now that it's happened, and they have to go through it. And sure, past performances with subs may up our expectations and be like, well, they're playing with a sub, but you know, it doesn't matter because they played with Jammies, they played with fucking Whippy, they played with player 1 before. Like, you know, they're changing players all the time, so it's fine for them because they perform well. But realistically, eventually that shit is gonna hurt, right?
Yeah, well, don't be a weirdo to the Riot admins. That would probably help them out.
Yeah, I mean, that does help.
Yeah, that would absolutely help. But I feel like that analysis is quite, revisionist. Like, it only works in hindsight, because they have a sub, and you never know really what to expect of them. Like, we underrated them coming into, or we had much lower expectations of them coming into Iceland, and we now, because of the whiplash of that, had higher expectations of them now. If you think kind of on the big picture kind of level, their good performance in Iceland, poor performance now. What does this really mean for the future? What is reasonable to expect from version 1? Should we be expecting them to get to Berlin? When does Zelsis even come back?
I mean, he should be back for this next qualifier.
Qualifier.
Yeah.
So does that change things? So, are we putting everything down to the fact that they were playing with a sub?
One aspect of this as well, we just keep saying they had a sub, but they are subbing different guys. So at the end of the day, it could just be that Zelsis is more important to the team than or more important rather to like the core identity of the team than Whippy, who had just come in and subbing came out for Jammies and just having another Viper. Even though Whippy was performing well, you're subbing now an actual like from day one core member. Sure. It's a bit different, right? So
depending on what they do in the comms, it might be insanely different. It's hard to know from the outside.
It's hard to say for sure, right? So when he comes back, I feel like the expectations should be high still. I mean, they at the end of the day, with this 5, they came in 2nd place, were able to qualify, beat all of the. They ran the gauntlet of good NA teams in the last qualifier with these 5. They won. They qualified for Berlin. Had a good performance given the where they were.
I would say getting like 13-5 by KCP is definitely an underperformance. If they get it's one thing if they have like a close like series versus like a KCP type of team, like a tier 2 team that's been grind up and trying to break into the upper like tier 1.5, like the tier 1 area. But that's one thing, especially with people rotating around. They're like, okay, but if they lose in a pretty decisive manner, I would consider that underperformance, which they did. So to me, I feel like I expect version 1 to be able to compete to like qualify, to get through to the top 4 of like a challengers. But I don't think that they're like guaranteed, that's my expectations for them. It's like they're in the position to compete for it, but are they guaranteed it? By any means, no. And so if they get like rolled by like lower level teams, then that's a pretty big underperformance.
Who is in the next one? I mean, version 1, Gen.G,
everybody,
Cloud9. Who are some other big teams that didn't?
KCP again.
Yeah, I guess
T1.
T1,
Andbox.
T1.
Oh yeah, there's a million teams.
Sure.
At the end of the day,
Zero.
Won't Rise be back in there again too?
Sonics is coming through. They're about to win this shit.
Sonics and Rise are both going to be in there. So
I don't know. At the end of the day, with this version, like with this KCP game, honestly, after version 1 lost 100 Thieves, I was kind of like, okay. I mean, it's just all right. And then when I see they lose KCP, okay, all right. I'm kind of just waiting for them to play with their actual roster now. Not that it's any type of excuse, but it's just kind of like
you feel like it's almost irrelevant data.
Yeah, I just don't care that much, and I think that this game I feel like is a ripe for an upset game, and I'll put I don't know. There will be more value put into when they have their supposed 5. Then can read more into that.
I still have 2 points that you could take negatives and positives from it regardless of sub. Let's ignore the sub thing from now on and like actually how they played. This is the first time we're watching them without with the Astra changes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Outside of the open qualifier where they didn't really have that much problem. We were calling Vanity the meta master and shit, right? We were saying like, oh, this guy's the meta master. He's playing Astra. He's the best Astra in potentially the world and shit like that. And in reality, was it always his father Steel who was the meta master and just staying ahead because he knew that the Astra was going to get nerfed and that Viper was going to get nerfed and Sky was going to get buffed? Is that the reality of the situation?
The long con from Steel. Give up on Astra
dude,
early
I'm in.
because it will get nerfed.
You're about to get me on a.
That's like, yeah. You just int for like a meta, and then just like it's gonna get nerfed at some point, guys. It's like it's over.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
a viable
Version 1
strat.
themselves actually moved over to playing a bunch of Omen, right? Like Vanity was
They
playing
gave up on
Omen
it.
as well, and I don't.
I don't want to be meta man, but I'm telling you, I think people kicked the Astra out too early. I think Astra's still very
Okay, well,
good.
hold your horses because we need
know,
another
I-
lower
I-
third for that, and we haven't
yeah.
added it in, and Kurt's taking
But
a
that
piss,
being said,
so-
Astra isn't like I'm about to go on. About to start talking about how good I think the Ascend comps are, and they're not running Astra. I don't think I think that in this current meta, it looks like you don't need an Astra like you did before, but I still think she is very good and shouldn't just be kicked to the side from the nerves.
Yeah, if we take a look at
but-
the teams that.
But we should talk about Gen.G. I'm about to get.
Yeah, okay, let's talk about Gen.G.
Sidetrack because Gen.G.
Yeah.
Gen.G. were a team. For me, I had high expectations of Gen.G. They had a really tough bracket in this. I mean, we knew from looking at the bracket there was destined to be a lower bracket game to qualify between like Envy, Gen.G, and 100 Thieves.
I don't think we
and
predicted
V1.
Gen.G, right?
I don't even know. But at the end of the day, though, that game, that lower round 2 game was destined to be a stacked game just because of the makeup of the bracket. And Envy played a solid game against Gen.G here. They looked very prepared, and they got a pretty clean win. I don't think, for me, Gen.G didn't disappoint. I think they just had a tough bracket, lost to a good team, and I expect them to be back in the top 8 competing for a spot next time.
Yeah. It just, I guess the only disappointment surrounding Gen.G is that they haven't really been able to crack it, be able to like take the next step up to be able to consistently make it to the top finishes. They make top 3 when it comes to, what was that, Masters 1?
Yeah.
But they haven't been able to replicate that level of success. I suppose that's the only disappointing factor, but yeah, they don't look like they're quite there, but I do like all of the moves that they're making. I like how the team is playing. They're just not. They're not at that top level yet.
Yeah, that's how I feel about Gen.G as well. I think they just need to come together more. I mean, realistically, I feel like it's just another time where right now, like, there's been so much movement in like the mid-tier NA scene, the mid to lower portion of like that tier 1, and even like the tier 2, tier 1.5, that like there just needs to be some more time to gel. The meta shifted, like outside of like our very established teams that we've had, like the ones that were going to Iceland or competed for Iceland before, like we just need more time to see what happens. And I feel like everyone's still kind of figuring out like what exactly is the best in a lot of ways. I mean, especially when you compare like North America to Europe and just like the crazy meta differences already. There's a lot of things to be figured out. And I think Envy, like we said, is like just a consistent team. They're consistent as fuck. If you have a very, very consistent team that's always been able to compete towards the top, but doesn't necessarily win, versus a team that's been struggling to break into the upper echelon and has made moves in the roster, there's a lot of time to figure things out still.
I do think as well, actually, that is one game that that this Envy Gen.G game would definitely give some credit to Envy's new coach, Mike's, for, because I know he was in the absolute lab dissecting the Gen.G. He was very afraid of Gen.G and was just dissecting their fucking maps for this game. So this is one of those games where as well having some good prep going in, I think, was also a bit of a difference maker.
Yeah,
because Gen.G were a really scary team. I mean, they're a team to be respected in this, and I still, they're gonna be good in the next qual. So
an overall point here as well is that I am very impressed with the level of North America right now. I think there have been times, certainly, like in the qualifier run leading up to Reykjavik, I was not that impressed with the level of the North American teams that were trying to qualify. I think, if you think about Sentinels pre-Reykjavik, if you're thinking about like the level of other teams that we were thinking highly of at the time, like people like Envy, 100 Thieves, that kind of thing, the performance did not seem to be that great. A lot of those teams have hit the lab and they've come back swinging in this event. Like, I've been really impressed with what I've seen in the last week from 100 Thieves, as I'm hoping that continues. I like the way that Gen.G plays, even though they've been disappointing. Okay, version 1, that isn't quite the same, but we'll wait for them to get their 5 back. Sentinels still playing at a high level. XSET leveled up a lot. There's just a huge bunch of teams up at the top level in North America that are making the scene look strong right now. And it's one of the first times where I feel like the bulk of teams at the top looks better than the bulk of teams at the top of EU, where I'm looking at the North American scene right now and thinking, damn, there's like 5 teams out here that I'd be scared of. It's not just Sentinels. Which I don't know whether that was because they took a break or time off, or maybe it's like as Astra's been nerfed, their style works a little more. I don't know what the hell it is, but they're looking tasty, a lot of these teams. Have you guys got the same impression out of that?
Did you run out of copium?
Tasty.
Did you run out of your fucking tanks? Like what?
Yeah, the EU copium tanks.
No,
are
I just
finally-
genuinely, I've been watching the games, and the EU teams are all looking a little shaky right now. And then I look at the North American teams and what they're doing, and then I'm like, fucking hot damn, this is NA's time. I don't know whether they got fired up off the Sentinels win or whatever.
Experimentation, do you? You just don't like the nice taste of experimentation.
I think that NA teams did their experimenting previously, though. Like 2-3 months ago, that's when they were dabbling and lost in the fucking sauce. And they've come out. They've come out all tasty.
Some of the
Why do you keep calling them tasty? It's just
because they're lost in sauce. Sauce, marinara, tasty,
I mean, I think some of the NA experiments kind of just look better right now too. Like if you're, I don't know who's experimenting in NA. Gen.G. Like I think that some of the Gen.G experiments.
I mean, 100
experiments are y'all talking about? What the fuck kind of experiments are there? Like
Gen.G. I mean,
running Sky in an NA standard comp. Like,
I mean, running Brim on Breeze is a bit of an experiment,
I'm
isn't
definitely
it?
thinking about what they're doing on Breeze in regards to how often they're like switching the players.
They had Kusta playing Jett. That's an experiment for the team.
Everything on Breeze is an experiment.
True.
No?
Yeah, but I do think that Gen.G are going through a bit of a transformational phase. They're moving roles around. They're changing what people are playing.
But it always ends in NA standard. It always ends in, double duelist. And
Hey, maybe more teams
people
should
are playing Sky.
I mean, hey, listen, maybe more teams should be doing that, given that Ascend Giga rolled in EU. I mean,
well, I don't know, man.
Well,
I'm liking the solo duelist looks from some of these NA teams too. Like the 100 Thieves with Ethan playing Omen and playing Sky. He's playing it as if he is a duelist, pushing aggressively into different areas, but they're getting value out of it. Like I like that shit. I like it.
I hear what you're saying, and
but
I
also,
understand.
You're high on the fucking Ascend.
I just think that Ascend are running really, really good comps in this current meta, and they also have the exact personnel for those comps.
Okay. All right. Well, before we get over to the European side of things, I do want to take a small moment to just talk about the meta. I know that we didn't have this as a topic, but if we could just scooch in a little meta discussion here, because there are some things that we've now had time to look at after the last patch. The one of which being the smokers, the controllers. Video game meta discussion. Kurt's on fire with the lower thirds today.
Works. All right, keep going.
The Astra Omen discussion. You've been just chomping at the bit to talk about it.
Oh, I mean, it's really just. Kurt, could you pull up? This is a good time if you could pull up the VLR pick rates. For the NA, just
for North America?
Yeah, just to compare Omen, Astra, the Brimmy. I just think that there are some teams who just went immediately back to the Omen that probably did not need to. I mean, what is Astra at now?
30 compared to 39 for Omen.
Yeah. I just think that there are some teams that just went back to the Omen too quickly, and I know that for a lot of teams it's probably a comfort thing. I mean, there were some teams that never even really did the Astra in the first place, obviously, and they're happy to just stick with the Omen. There are some teams that tried to do Astra, but it wasn't really their thing, so they just, okay, wait, we can go back to Omen, and then they went right back. But I still think that Astra proved she has a lot of value. I think she was one of the main reasons that Rise were really good in this tournament, not out of nowhere, but that would be the wrong way to put it. But like one of the reasons that I think that they were so competitive was that they were excellent on defense, a lot due to Superman playing Astra and shutting down sites. I think that he was crucial for that. Like same thing with XSET. I think that Def on Astra was a crucial part of what they were doing as well. Like I think that when we saw the Astra, you could
Sentinels too.
Yeah. Zoms was still playing Astra. I mean, I think that when you saw the Astra being played, I feel like it was evident that there was still immense value there. And some of the teams, I think, may have kicked her to the side too quickly. Maybe Version1 being a good example of that, honestly, where they may want to have Vanity back on it. But yeah, I think that I just think that our pick rate went too low too quickly.
Do you agree with that?
Yes, I think so for sure. I think that the Astra changes are very, very, like they change her a lot, and they do kind of stop her from being that oppressive, very early start of round type of thing where you can gain a little bit more control. But I don't think that was the main reason why she was good. I don't think that was the main reason why Vanity was popping the fuck off with Astra. It was because of his quick placements of stars to assist in certain positions and combo. And I think that is still very doable. You just have to be even better on the agent, which maybe is too hard for a lot of teams.
I wonder how much of it's also comfort pick too. Like how much of these like controller players want to just be like back on Omen versus playing Astra. Simply because I feel like for some players, they feel that the Omen's just more intuitive to them than the Astra. And so I don't know. I have literally zero empirical evidence to back it up, but I'm just doing this from like a player perspective of like, especially when there are different, like in any game where there's champs or agents or heroes, etc. There's always going to be comfort picks and what you prefer to play, and like how teams are used to playing the game. And I wonder how many of these teams are just like feeling like, oh man, like Astra's nerf, let's just go back to Omen. Like let's just get back on the Omen because like that's a meta that and a hero and an agent that we already like really understand from the beginning, on top of just like overblown meta considerations.
Yeah. I think that's a huge factor. Yeah, I think a lot of it's comfort.
I did love the way that Def was playing the Astra. I think that he still looked fantastic there, and I do agree with you that especially for Version1 with how good Vanity looked at it. But when I was watching Sentinels, that's the part that I think I disagree with, is that it didn't look like Zoms was getting the same impact that he previously was on Astra. And am I wrong in saying that they transitioned to way more Omen as the tournament went on? I think as they played, Zoms moved away from the Astra as the tournament went on, right? And they saw, I mean, saying they saw more success is correlation, not causation, because with Sentinels, it's more about them giving a fuck later in the bracket rather than any agent comp that they're actually playing. So I'm not going to make that claim. But when I was watching their game, like when they played against XSET, it felt like Zoms was not being able to find the same value, especially on like Haven. It really did change up the way that they were playing around A lobby control. You were just, in the Astra meta, you were just given that area of the map as defenders. Yeah. Whereas now they have to shift to playing it much more heavily, and it changes up their information game on the rest of the map.
And it's actually funny because Fnatic made the same adjustments off of Astra on Haven.
Yeah,
I think that is the one. I think that's the map where the change to Omen makes the most sense.
Which is unusual as well, because Astra should be valuable on Haven because you can have impact everywhere. You know, there's 3 bomb sites. It's a big map, but so much of it was about that early, straight off the gate control that it does feel like Omen can get more value there.
Yeah,
and even on, I don't know, like on Ascent as well, I feel like there's some the Omen can be extremely powerful on Ascent, and I think there's a lot of different setups where you can have proactive value that it's a little more difficult to get from the Astra.
Here's something I'll say, where I still think I agree with my original takes and whatnot, but I do think that Omen's skill ceiling and value ceiling is higher than Astra's would be now after the patch.
What do you mean by, like, why do you say that? Is that because of people like Nitro and
'Cause
Ethan who are putting down these like little ratty smokes and playing around them? It's just harder to do that on Astra?
Yes, 100%. That combined with the immediacy of the paranoia with your teammates compared to the Gravwell, which almost always relies on extra utility from other teammates. That is very hard to do, and also not necessarily the biggest impact compared to flashing and getting a kill instantly.
To me, this meta feels, dare I say it, fairly balanced, where
Yes.
I can
Yeah,
see value
it
in
does.
running both, which we haven't had before. Normally, it's just we play Omen full time, or recently we play Astra full time.
And
I
listen,
like the state of the balance right now with those.
Even a little bit of Brimmy in there.
Yeah, I mean, North America still isn't playing very much
Little
Brimmy. I
bit
think
of
it's sat at
Brimmy.
like 7% or something. But
Better than 0.
yeah, there has been a little bit of Brimmy. And
Better than 0.
yeah, some of it being played over in Europe as well. The other thing I wanted to bring up in this discussion too is the resurgence of Cypher and kill trips in particular. Have you guys noticed how much the Jets are having to fucking wiggle their way around and like duck underneath a tripwire and then dash
yeah.
over the other ones? And it breaks the spacing of sight hits up because your Jett is now in and you're like, oh shit, she said there was a fucking tripwire around here somewhere. Where the shit is it? And you're like, the second guy in has to break the trip or run into it. It just feels like you can have way more impact as Cypher right now. You saw Steel with these ratty setups, holding front sight. Good luck holding front sight if the Jett can break your trips, because then you have nothing to slow people down effectively. And then we saw Safe over in Europe playing incredibly dapper as well. Like, the revival of Cypher seems to be here.
Definitely. And not to say none of this matters, but some of this
Because of KO.
might be out
Yes,
the window.
yes.
Because
Yeah.
KO
Yeah.
is coming in next
Is
next
K-
week.
are they coming in next challengers? That's
Oh,
when KO
yeah.
comes in.
It's coming.
Oh man,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
gonna be. I've seen so much talk about like KO is just gonna fucking bust it open. Just gonna bust it open, man. Actually,
Yep.
so
Well, I think that's a really interesting topic to move on with here, because we're talking about Fnatic and Liquid next, who are two teams that made it to Reykjavik. They were the European people, the teams that were represented the entirety of the European region. Neither of them have qualified the first time around. So in version 1, they failed to qualify over in North America, and you can say, oh, well, they had a sub, etc., etc. Fnatic and Liquid now have to go back into the next qualifier, playing KO and playing Breeze, both of which they had, I guess you could argue, less time on compared to the other teams because they were playing in Reykjavik. So this is a big shakeup happening here, where it feels like, okay, there's new teams, not new teams. Well, in some cases they are, but the teams that most people would have expected if they followed Reykjavik have not made it through.
Yeah, I mean, who do we want to start with? Fnatic?
Yeah.
All
Start
right.
with Fnatic.
realistically,
Honestly-
if we go back to our other Preds, did we really? We kind of only missed like one team on average, right? Because we all kind of went Ascend
the Preds.
G2 FPX, right?
Fuck the Preds. What I want to...
Oh, fuck the Preds.
The
Okay.
Preds are enough. I don't even... Who do we predict? FPX? Here's what I think. I think Fnatic, they need... I think they need a little break. I think Durka needs to go get a night. I think Durka needs a nice spa day. I think he needs to go to the spa, get a nice massage, relax, a little hot oil. You know what I mean? Get the kinks out, work his shoulders, work
Hot
the
oil
gaming.
kinks? What?
Work the. You know what I mean? He needs to relax.
Oh,
Is what I'm saying.
I'm sure he would.
I think they need a little break. They honestly, in this qualifier, I felt like they were just out of gas. I thought they were playing relatively fine in regards to the team play, all that. They weren't really going in the direction so much as like the experimental craziness that was happening before. On some, at least I felt that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they were back to like on Haven. They were playing like the honest Valorant comp, just like the Jett, the Phoenix, the Omen, the Cypher, and the Sova.
But
It's
they've
just
never
some
played that
honest
before.
Valorant.
They've never played that, so it is
Yeah.
weird for them. That comp is not standard for those players and that team.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I feel like that is almost so base Valorant that it's just. And I thought that they were playing fine with the comp too. I thought that the team
And their
play was
comp was
fine.
not even that much different than it. They replaced Sova for Sky and they replaced Killjoy for Cypher. and then it's the same comp.
Yeah, like they did, or they had like the Sage before.
They had the
like,
Sage as well.
But my point is,
Oh, you're right.
and they had
actually.
Killjoy. They had Killjoy
Yeah, but
Astra.
they're playing literally the default Valorant comp. Like when you open Valorant, they tell you to play that comp. It's in the trailer.
No,
and shit.
that's not true.
Yeah,
Cypher is an unlockable character.
It is in the trailer. Okay, this is the default Valorant comp that they're running. And no, but my point is just being, I think that they honestly played fine as a team. I thought the team played, I felt like they were just not hitting shots. They just weren't on point. I think they need a fucking break, take a breather, few days off, couple days at the spa, and then they'll come back. And I think they're honestly probably going to be fine in the next qualifier. To me, this was all individual.
To your point about the individuals, it's got to be said that a lot of what was really carrying Fnatic in that entire run up to Reykjavik was these fast rounds where Durka and Doma were pooping on people.
Mm-hmm.
That's a large amount of what was getting Fnatic their round wins. It wasn't everything. They do still have a lot of tactical depth, but those were really important to them. At the end of this round, Kurt, would you mind pulling up the Durka's stats for this tournament? They are way lower, and he's the kind of player that doesn't really receive as much. I mean, he still receives setup from his team. He still receives like recons, whatever. But it's mostly on his shoulders to go and deliver those entry picks for the team, and he just wasn't doing them. To take it to your individual argument, he didn't. His form was not at that unreal level it was on the run up to Reykjavik, and I think that isn't. It's something that his stats aren't awful, by the way. They're just not at his kind of level.
Yeah.
Durka's sat at like 0.76 KPR with a 1 KD, etc. Still being able to find opening picks with some regularity. But if you click on his account and you look at his most recent stats, like over the last 60 days, he's putting up 0.85. If you look at all time, he's at like 0.95 or something. Like 0.95 on Jett. Like this guy is normally unbelievable, and it was part of what was getting them there. And those insane moments weren't being found as often. To me, though, the reason that I was going with this like experimental thing is that every comp on every map had shifted for Fnatic. And when I talked to the Fnatic guys, and when we did interviews with them, and then when I talked to their coach afterwards too, a lot of what my impression of what they took away from Reykjavik was that they need to become more individually what's the way of explaining this?
More sentient.
More
I mean, well,
they need
I mean,
to,
maybe that's
sentient implies
that might be framing it a little too rudely, but
yeah, they're like
but I was under the
primordial
impression
slobs.
that it was just that Boaster is
the
just
brain,
the master
the
puppeteer, and he's just leading them all around, right?
And that's
With
what
strings,
I'm reading into this. It's not like I've got this directly from them, but when they're kind of discussing the big takeaways from their games against Sentinels and stuff, a lot of what they were talking about was that they feel like there's a step up where you need everyone on your team to be thinking for themselves, making game plans for themselves, having an understanding of how the entire game works. You can't just rely on one central brain unit, one central IGL in Valorant. And this, to me, seemed to be a push in that direction. Like the fact that they were trying to play the Jett Phoenix, where you have way more freedom. Jett Phoenix, where you have more freedom and you are trying to acquire that information on an individual level rather than on a more passive level with the Killjoy and with the like Sage blocking off areas, that kind of stuff, the sky flashing. I can feel the pieces there of Fnatic trying to shift their style and trying to become a better team, but you don't always improve. If you're trying to get over a big hurdle, sometimes you'll get worse for a little bit before you get better. And that to me was part of what I was noticing in these games, was that it wasn't that they were playing badly together as a team, but they didn't look as drilled as they did before. They weren't popping off individually to the same level, because I think they were thinking about the game in a different way. Obviously, that's my speculation from the outside. I'm not sat in on the comms, but that's what I got from these games, is that they're experimenting with the structure of the team to some degree.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some truth in that, but it's hard to it's hard to rebrand to the individual team if your players aren't hitting shots. I mean, I really think that's just what it came down to. I mean, we've yet to see a game with Fnatic where, like, in that guild game on Haven, there was a point where it was like Safe and maybe it was Leo were both at like 20 kills and like and everybody on Fnatic was like sub 10.
Yeah,
I mean, that just doesn't. I know that's just some scoreboard Stevening, but it's not. I mean, it isn't though, because in the game you're watching, it's literally just not going to kills. Like, that's what I'm saying. I really just think that they fucking need a break. They've just been in go mode pretty much the whole time since, qualifying to Iceland, coming back from Iceland. Sure, maybe they like take a little bit of time off after that, but then they have to get right back into the qualifier. It's a lot, and doing something
there is a week break or something like that before opens even start. So there's 2 weeks before they play again.
That's what I'm saying.
But when they play again, they'll have to change all their comps up again because KO's being played. I mean, that's assuming that KO actually does have a big role in the meta. We don't know that for sure yet, but if he does, you're going to have to change up a bunch of your comps in the way that you're playing again, which is part of, I think, like, again, every single map their team comp is changed based on what was getting them success before. It feels like they're trying to redefine and stay ahead, but without maybe having everything set in stone.
To be fair, I mean, you do have to start somewhere, right? Like, I feel like it took them a while for Fnatic to iterate to the point to where they're really good at Iceland. Now, granted, it required roster swaps for them too, but I feel like it's very tough for any team to just like change up their gameplay and just be really, really good from the onset, especially in a game like Valorant. Like, there are only a couple where I'd be like, someone just bust out something fucking crazy, and you're like, oh, and it just works, like Sentinels or like FPX or something like that. Like, even like a lot of the best teams, like, it takes some time.
The first mention of the copium.
Yeah. Well,
No,
I mean, to be fair,
it's
not full copium yet because, like, I think that's just. But you get what I'm. You get what I'm going for.
Boys.
You want to talk about
get what
that
I'm going
showered
for,
Jett, Connor? Any thoughts on that?
I mean, we did. Go on, Balla.
I was going to say, like, I think that the structure changing thing that you're kind of like inferring from, their conversations and stuff might have truth to it. I think maybe reading into the comps and thinking that way, to me, that doesn't seem intuitive, because if I was going to go around that structure change where I'm trying to build the individualism of Sentinels, and that type of like just on the fly fluid play, if I'm trying to do that, I actually stick with my strats, my structure, and I continue to drill that so hard that everything else comes with it. The fluidity can come from that because you're building out these branches normally and naturally. Not necessarily naturally, but you're forcing it that way,
And you don't have to relearn the comp and a different way of playing. You just have to then add that extra layer on top. I understand what you mean.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm conflicted on what I feel like they're doing, but I'm not super concerned right now.
Yeah,
I'm not super
either.
concerned for them because they didn't look awful, and they're experimenting, and I felt like they needed to do something after Iceland, because this is a team that everybody's been watching. They've been at the forefront of the meta for so long on many different maps. Maybe not, for NA, but for EU, they have been at the forefront of the meta for many different maps, and everybody's watching them, And you look at their bind, for example, the one that's been undefeated. Oh my God, undefeated. And you see Sentinels destroy them, and you're just like, oh, okay, well, it's not actually that like broken or OP. So I don't know. It just felt so stagnant that it was going to get attacked. It was going to lose eventually. That's how I felt like after Iceland.
The weird thing is, though, that to use their bind as an example, they've changed their bind, but they're now losing to teams that are using their old bind comp. It's like you do need to make a change, but there's no guarantee. Other people use Sentinels as the thing of like, okay, well, Sentinels were able to shift their style and continue adapting to the times, but I think they're the exception. It's unusual to have a team as good as Sentinels that can always rebound and continue shifting and making. They don't make drastic comp swaps. They make small tweaks, and that's wild. That should be praised as its own unique thing that Shaz has been able to do with that team. Not everyone is going to be able to replicate the same thing. Let's move on to talking about Liquid, though, because we wrote Liquid off. I mean, you said fuck the Preds, but I want to return to expectations. Our expectations for Liquid were that they would not make it through. And that, I think, just carries the thread of us not believing in Liquid. Like, we thought that their qualification for Reykjavik was a bit of a flash in the pan. And, okay, we actually said that they might have a chance of losing to BDS there.
Which they almost fucking did, by the way. They definitely almost did. BDS threw this game. I don't think I've seen a bigger throw ever happen.
They were very close games, but they did still manage to make it through. They just lost to FPX in the end. But this is another team where I definitely feel worse about Liquid than I do about Fnatic. But I'm feeling like this could be a time where it's a totally different branch of European teams that end up making it to Berlin.
Yeah,
I hope so.
I think that's very possible, but also there's 4 slots. So I think it's
4 slots, but also you're competing with the CIS and Turkish teams as well.
Yeah. That is true, but I still think, I don't know, 4 slots. I still feel good. I guess I still feel okay about Fnatic.
Okay.
I think this was a bump in the road and an inevitable one. I mean, they were kind of just running hot off the roster change, and they never really slowed down. Eventually, they were going to get hit in the head and fall over and have to pick themselves back up, right?
But what about Liquid?
Liquid, I think, kind of just peaked at the right time.
Right.
And they kind of just found their way into the tournament. I mean, maybe that's framing it a little bit too poorly. They just found their way.
They just woke up one day.
Yeah.
Oh shit, we're in Iceland.
What the fuck? We're in Iceland.
What the fuck? Yeah, that's maybe not exactly accurate, but I think that was. I feel like they kind of just peaked at the right time, and there wasn't. I just don't think Liquid have the pieces right now to be a consistent stay on, or even like whatever, top 2, top 3.
Okay.
I think that they're a really good team, and I think that on a given day they have the ability to exceed their average and make it into like a top 3 area, but I feel like the upper echelon of EU is just a bit too stacked right now.
Okay.
And I feel like they're in the upper echelon. They're just at the bottom of it. And I just don't think they have the personnel to overcome some of these teams like that are really hitting like Ascend or New G2.
Yeah, New G2.
So
yeah, that kind of stuff.
I think they're going to be trapped in like sixth place hell, basically. That's kind of what it looks like to me.
I think Liquid have returned to Monkey. I think they've returned to the primordial soup a little bit. Like, no joke.
Okay.
I was like, with the meta shift, I feel like they're just like, let's flash scream in on Jett and let's play Omen and then let's win game. And that was like, I feel like that was like a lot of times I was watching them play, and then they incorporated some Sky in there at times. And they put the link back on like Brim for like bind, etc. So like, but I feel like for the rest of it, I did not see very much. This felt like a return to like trying to go to comfort picks again and stuff that had worked for them. And it was not like they'd given up entirely on the Astra. We weren't seeing any sort of like real changes with the gameplay style at all. Like I felt like this was a return to the single celled part of Spore for Liquid, and they have to reinvent themselves just a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I think you're mining at an important point here. I think part of it though too is that I think they took away from Sentinels win, or how Sentinels play, that they wanted to kind of revert to the like Scream. That's part of the reason why they went back to Scream playing Jett and just trying to set him up. I mean, it's reminiscent of. I mean, it is.
You mean they're making Scream their 10s?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Genuinely, I think that's kind of the idea.
But the problem with that is Liquid have only looked good when they, as a team, when they don't put all of their resources into Scream, because Scream cannot win you every single map. You need to have the other guys on the team be empowered to win some of your rounds. Scream's going to be good no matter what you do. He doesn't need a shit ton of setup, but the rest of your team kind of does.
I think Scream is actually at his best when he is just when he's not supposed to be the guy.
When he's playing Sage and shit, you mean?
Yeah, genuinely. I think that's when it's I think that's when you get real value out of him, when you put other players in position, because you know that Scream is just going to give you rounds where he's defending a site, the site is getting hit, and he just kills 3 people. Like he's gonna give you those rounds without, just investing everything into him. I don't know. I love having players like that in supporting roles where they are self-sufficient and can be mega impactful for your team just on their own and without having resources dictated towards them. I like players like that in those positions. So.
Okay. If Fnatic and Liquid have both fallen short in this first qualifier, if they haven't made good steps on the path towards Berlin, and you're someone who's wanting to root for Europe, or you're a North American fan who's interested to know who the next big team to knock down is going to be, who's going to go and compete against Sentinels, who do we actually have as being the Berlin teams at EU? Who are looking like, which teams are looking like they're going to be the ones to go and represent Europe? And is there anybody that looks like they're going to be able to take it to a Sentinels type of team? Is there anyone that can avenge Europe?
Yes.
Is this when I get to just talk about how good it
Yeah.
Yeah, are we just going to talk about a sin now? Are we just about to suck a sin's dick? Here we go.
Yep.
Let's see it.
Let's get to sucking.
Yep.
Ascend are just clearly the best team in EU right now. And if it does seem like if there were a team to compete with Sentinels, it would be them, given how strong the individual players are, also how reactive they are, how aggressive they are. Like, Kurt, could you pull up, there was a round in the match against Guild, round 18 on Haven against Guild, I think is a good example of it. But I think that the players individually are insane. Obviously, CNET is he's
He's
different.
a nutcase.
He's absolutely different. I think Zeke has been excellent on the team.
Yeah.
I think their comps are the shit. I love the comps they run. I really do. And I mean, a lot of them...
They don't follow meta.
Some of them are Sentinels-esque, like their Icebox comp, for instance. But on the other maps, like I love what they run on Haven. I like it's like the classic Valorant comp, but they have the Sky instead of the Sova. I think also it's not just that they run good comps; it's that they have the personnel for them. Like Sky is really good right now. Starkso is crazy on Sky. They have the right players for the right agents, so it's all kind of culminating. I mean, this was just a great round where Guild go for an A hit with Yassine. Look at this reaction. Starkso sends the flash over. Immediately, CNED out with his ult from heaven. Phoenix ult in from lower. Molly already onto site. The flash over top. Like the speed in which they're reacting to what's happening is just so good. It's faster than anybody else in EU right now. And I think that has been a crucial factor for them as well. I think that right now, this looks like it's one of those situations too where I think the meta is good for them. Because, again, they just have the personnel for these agents. I'm really high on Ascend right now. I think that
I don't think the previous meta was that great for them, though.
No,
like
I
the
agree.
Viper Astra kind of shit.
Yeah, I think that is. Yeah,
down.
like when they get to be aggressive like this and reactive, and their players are when the players are decisive but working in tandem like that. When you have Zeke, when you have like Zeke and these guys who are just fearless in these situations, it makes a huge difference. And on defense, okay, someone else talk. Someone else pop off.
That last meta should have not been good for Sentinels though, too. Like in certain instances as well. So like, I don't know.
Yeah. But they're the best team in the world.
I am fucking hype on Ascend as well, and I'm so sad we didn't get to see them throughout. But this is kind of a different. They lost Golementa, so like Bone Cold's IDLing now, and things look as fluid as ever. And I feel like they are one of the only teams in EU outside of, Heretics before they lost Nisao, who was fluid. Everybody else is fucking, it looks like they're going out of a playbook. Like literally Angels, like, oh, let's go for the A split where we smoke this and flash in specific position, blah, 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 blah. Like that's how I feel like the rest of EU plays. And you're talking about how Fnatic's maybe trying to move away from as much structure and move into a little bit more fluidity. I think that Ascend has a beautiful mix of both, but the fluidity part is what makes them so damn good. This round is ridiculous from CNET. Everybody's seen this clip, but
he's absurd. He's absolutely absurd. I mean,
it's
this is some
just
TW shit. Like,
it's just
I mean,
silly.
that was like the third or so. Was that like the third no scope he hit in that game or something? I don't know. I remember there were fools. I mean, it was just an absurd game.
Yeah.
I mean, he is just.
I think
simple vibes.
To me, Europe was at its best at Masters 1 when Heretics were playing against Ascend, and they had that like insane level of competition.
Yeah.
And they were also leaning pretty heavily into like double duelist stuff. And honestly, as much as Heretics are relatively slow, I guess you could call them somewhat of a like old Heretics were quite a slow standard Europe team. Like they were trying to really play these slow rounds on attack and play very contacty in. But they still had a lot of pace when it was required, like fueled by Nuki and stuff as well. Getting to see these finals again with CNED against Nuki, with Nuki now playing for G2, I really do believe in this G2 team as well. So I wanted to bring them up here as well, is that this G2 team is an unpolished diamond. Ascend has been playing with each other for a while. This core of this team has been together. They've already built all of their structure that called them in to help them build, and Bone Cold's taken over the reins. But it's not like Bone Cold had to build shit up from the ground floor. He already had a lot of structure in place to help him, and they just transitioned it forward now with an extra firepower coming from Zeke. G2 is really building from a base level. They have some of the structure that they've kept, it feels, from old Heretics, actually, weirdly, despite Coldamenta being the IGL, where they do play a little bit of a slower game around Nuki and Avova, but all of the roles have swapped up and all of that kind of shit too. And this G2 team seriously could end up being the best team in Europe if you give them time. By the time Berlin rolls around, they might overtake Ascend, because I think the trajectory for this team and the potential of this team is extraordinary. They're not there yet. They're good, but they're not there yet. And I believe in them.
That's a fucking leap, bro. They're
What,
gonna be
really?
Potentially better than Ascend. Yeah,
I think
that's
by the time they get to Berlin, I think they could beat Ascend.
Ooh.
Yeah, I don't think that there's enough of a. I don't think there's a ceiling on this G2 team that stops them being better. That stops them being better than Ascend. I think it's going to be a while before they hit the ceiling. This is a crazy talented team. They have a pretty new player in Kellogg's, who's, I assume, only going to continue to develop. He's shown like flashes of brilliance, but not a solid amount. Mixwell's still getting used to playing Sentinel in the first place. His Viper looks good, but his Cypher still needs a huge amount of work. They have a lot of stuff that they can improve on. That's what I mean. And they're still already making finals. Like this is a good team. This is a team with a ceiling.
Assuming all their improvements go well, I think, though, that's a big thing, right? Like, they have to like actually hit these supposed ceilings, because if they don't, then I don't know how they're currently going to beat Ascend, especially because we have to think about moving forward into the future, and like for when KO's in, how does this change the meta and things? And like, honestly, I think Ascend is going to be probably still situated pretty well for a KO meta too. In my personal opinion, like, I think KO
because they're kind of cracked aimers. Is that
yeah. Well, and also just like they're used to like being fluid and breaking open holds a lot of times, anyways. And like there's not really a lot of like, we're not dealing with like some sort of Sage warfare, like old EU shit with like using Sage a lot, like from Ascend. That you'd see out of like an FPX or like old Heretics or something. So I think, I don't know. I feel like we have to still think about like KO going forward, and like where does that put the various teams too?
KO, if anything, will work more with Ascend, with G2, with Sentinels than other teams in my mind.
I agree too.
He is a agent that you have to be reactive with. If you're not reactive, you're just kind of fucking, because all it does is take away the abilities. You can still play the crossfires, and if you're playing I think that you see, I took down the Viper wall, then you could strike. Whereas teams who are structured are not going to have that timing down to be able to take advantage of things that KO brings.
Yeah, exactly. Why that fits for Ascend. Yeah, I think that fits for Ascend like really well.
Yeah.
Cool. So I do think we have to think about that going forward. But I kind of, even though I feel like that's kind of a hot take, I I've been working to unshackle my synapses recently and to become to break out of the orthodox Owen narratives. And
What does that mean?
What I mean, what? How have you been enacting that unshackling? Like what?
I've just been. I think a big thing
Just
is that it's
sucking
really
on
easy.
ayahuasca.
I think it's really easy to like fall into narratives versus like trying to like go for the safe bet. Versus
You're looking
like really
for
going with your gut.
independent thought.
Release.
Yeah,
yourself
I am looking to
prison of
ride the
society.
astral owl out into the astral plane in a way. And so I actually could see what Josh is saying, what sides are saying there for.
Yeah.
Listen,
I don't think it's. I don't think it's unreasonable either.
I'm also
I don't
not
think it's
saying
unreasonable.
that I would bet on G2 over Ascend.
I can't
I'm not
believe
saying
you're
I'd
betting
take
on
that bet, not unless you gave me
I
good
understand
odds.
that.
If you
Yeah.
gave me
I
good
understand
odds,
that.
though,
Okay, wait.
I'd be down.
Hold on. Now this is let's mine.
now we're in your
Let's-
fucking
let me
territory.
get out the
aren't you?
pickaxe and let's mine at this.
Okay.
Okay. What do you think? There's like
Here comes the question that takes
30%
15 years
chance.
to get out.
Well, let me put it like this: there's no team in North America that I'd take a 30% bet on. But you could convince me to take a 30% bet on G2. I mean, on a team in North America being able to beat Sentinels,
Yeah,
you
to
know?
win Berlin.
Yeah, to win Berlin. I'm not betting on any team other than Sentinels from NA.
Oh,
there's no
okay.
one.
Okay.
You could give me great odds. I feel like
Okay,
it'd be
I thought you
tossing my
just
money
meant better
away.
than Ascend.
No. And I do
Okay.
mean better than Ascend. But I'm comparing the two regions. You know? Because Sentinels won in North America,
You think
Ascend
that
is winning here.
Wait.
I think G2 is closer to Ascend. And maybe I'd take a 30%.
You would take
a three
this
for
is-
one.
So you would take G2 winning Berlin, right? In this moment, you would take them over any other team from NA. Outside Sentinels. Outside Sentinels.
Oh, outside Sentinels.
Yeah.
So do I think they'd make it deeper?
So if G2 versus, I don't know, V1.
But that's a terrible bet because it's a specific team against
it's not even
anyone
a bet.
that makes
this
it.
isn't even a bet. This is I'm just asking. Do you think that's? Do you think that's?
Here's what I would take if Ascend make it to Berlin.
Sure.
And you also have 100 Thieves and fucking who else? XSET make it to Berlin. Yeah, I'll bet on them. But I'm not betting Ascend versus everyone in North America because there's a way higher chance that someone from NA makes it because you're just working with way larger numbers there. Anyway, my point is that I would...
I don't know.
Do you know not understand what I mean
Now I'm
there?
lost in the sauce, but I think I get what you're saying.
Well, Ascend could still not make it to Berlin.
Yeah.
Whereas it's guaranteed that a North American team will. So that's a terrible bet to make for anyone ever.
Yeah, that's not okay. Just keep it moving.
Well,
Yeah.
listen.
I get what you're saying, but that's also
Yo, you've unlocked the synapses way too much, bro. Those
Yeah, we're
things are
thinking too
fucking
hard.
firing off.
All right.
You've
all
got
right,
the
all right.
pattern on the wall.
So let's move on from this and talk
Yeah.
about the other team that was able to qualify. So we had G2 being able to Ascend being able to qualify. We had G2, we had FPX, and we had Guild as well. Talk about Guild in a sec as well. But the G2 FPX, which of these teams do you feel more confident about? We've been singing the praises of FPX left, right, and fucking center. You're already molding that we're even bringing them up again. But
I'm gonna tell you.
Put
right
up a
now.
wall.
I'm gonna tell you something. I'm not saying anything. No. Do you really think I'm going to say something about...
I think you're going to say...
I'm not talking about FPX until they do a thing. And they are yet to do a thing. A thing has not been done. They qualified for the qualifier. They have qualified for qualifiers before.
They didn't even
and
win
they
this
haven't
one.
qualified through the qualifiers that mattered. Okay? And that's where the problem lies. So I'm not talking about them until we get there.
Okay.
But I would say right now I have more confidence in G2. I mean, I do agree that they have...
They both beat each other in this bracket, by the way. For people who weren't following the European side, FPX started with a 2-0 win over G2, which I thought was very unusual. And then G2 responded with a 2-1 afterwards. So I think that's more towards... I mean, FPX definitely turned up on an individual level, but I think it's more towards G2's youth as a team that they have this level of inconsistency.
I very
right
much
now.
so agree with your assessment that they are an unpolished diamond. I think that is very accurate. I think specifically when I'm watching them, you can clearly see the raw talent in Kellogg's, but I think that he's kind of like off on an island right now.
Yeah.
I feel like he's the piece that probably needs the most integration, but they have the talent there. I fully agree with you on that point. So I think given some time, I have more faith in G2.
Okay.
I would be buying the G2 stock.
Is everyone else selling their FPX stocks? Is this the right time to get out while they're still a top team that people believe in, but you can see like fresh blood coming up? Is this the right time to sell?
Fuck yes. Sell the shit out of FPX, bro. I want them so bad to be good, but they are throwing on levels that they've not been throwing before. I mean, sure, like the liquid.
I mean, that's
Break
harsh.
that down.
Break
that down.
Oh my god. Some of the remember all the way back to I think it was what, Masters 1, FPX versus Sens. I was like, they kind of threw that game, whatever. It was just like individually, it's like Zippon was like, I had some examples. This time, and through the last Challengers Finals too, it feels like there are breakdowns throughout the entire team. I'm thinking that match that I forgot who they were playing now. I think it was Guild in the closed qualifier, where they were winning on Icebox. It was like 11 something, or they were up. And they just throw every round after that. No, like it's bad reasons too. It's like somebody's forgetting the spike, or they're for some reason rotating really, really slowly, and the guy gets a flank and then he dies, even though they're expecting it. It's like stuff like they're whiffing shots. Dude, sell these guys. Sell them now, or they will break your heart. They will break your fucking heart. You'll be like, oh.
I feel like now that we're just serving up the criticism, they're going to rebound. They're going to rebound and they're going to qualify and they're going to make it. But
because Doom Bros is trolling us.
But I do think that, I mean, it does feel to me like, I'm not saying anything. I've asked, what do you think?
I mean, I'm not talking about it. Do I have the option to hold?
Yes,
do I have the option to hold, but not
Sure,
purchase or sell?
Yeah, you can hold.
I still think FPX has. I still think FPX is a good team. When I look at all the upcoming talent and the shakeups, like G2, I feel more positive about G2. I feel bullish about them looking forward. My price target has increased for them, but I don't, and so that's why I feel a little bit more confident about G2. But for FPX, I still think there's like a solid team there. They have a lot of talent, and like it's hard to imagine them ever like falling out of like the top 3 to 4 in the European region, Like, so to me, I'd rather just hold, but I would not purchase anymore. I would just let it sit. But I would go, I do feel good about G2. I agree with the G2 assessment. I was big on G2 heading in to Challengers 1, and I'm still feeling pretty confident about them moving forward. I mean, Ascend are looking like a bunch of crackheads, so like, yeah, they're looking like the best team, but I do think G2's really good.
Holding implies, do you think that they're going to get better though?
I think they could. I don't think it's out of the question. Like, who knows? Yeah. Maybe KO comes out and FPX suddenly becomes like the fucking Iron Dome of teams that's just reacting instantaneously.
They're going to get KO knifed, and they're just going to sit there, and they're not going to know what the fuck to do, and they're going to run out of time.
I'm just saying there's a chance, so I'm going to hold.
Okay, well,
I'm not mad at that.
Holding isn't bad because they finished 4th in this tournament. There's gonna be tournaments where they finish higher than 4th because they're good enough to be able to do that, right? So
I don't think it's worth a
4th
sell-off for me yet.
Yeah,
I think
they finished 4th.
Yeah, I think there's going to be tournaments in the future where they can finish 3rd. Maybe they can make like a Challenger 1 final or something. It won't happen in the big games from what we've seen so far, but yeah, I think there's going to be a higher point to sell at. You just have to pick the right qualifier to sell.
Yeah.
Here's why I'm losing hope more so than even the chokes, okay? FPX was a team that was so fucking structured, but they were also like Ascend. They had flashes of just like, oh shit, just go for this play. Yeah, that looked beautiful. They've lost that. Whenever they go into that fluid moment that they need to be in the end of rounds and stuff like that, it feels like they just don't know what the fuck they're doing anymore. So they have lost a major aspect of what I thought made them good. And because of that, I'm done with this team. I'm done.
I mean, it does.
Okay. You want listen.
He wants to say something so bad.
I feel like I have a suspicion.
He's breaking his vow of silence.
If I say something in criticism, they're just suddenly going to win.
Yeah, but
it really does. just for the sake of I don't know, voodoo magic, like no logic at all, but it does feel like they're reaching the expiry date. I mean, they're about to be.
And we're talking about expiry date as a team that can win tournaments, win championships. We're not talking about expiry like they're gonna fucking like TSM.
No, I mean they're just not. Yeah, like they're on their way out of the convo.
I do want to give a small moment here to Guild, who constantly overlooked, and I
God damn it, I knew this was
fucking
coming.
believed in them.
So,
And
here's my question for you.
yeah,
It's just one to make you mad.
yeah.
Did Guild win that game, or did Fnatic lose it?
I mean,
That's a great question.
I
Great
do
question.
think that Guild are the kind of team that are not going to win a tournament anytime soon. I don't think that the ceiling of the team is like absurd. I think they're at a pretty similar level to when they played last time, and they were just going deep because they're a very solid team. But they're still a good team. I think they don't get enough respect. A small moment for Guild.
Yep.
They're a good squad. I like seeing Yassine playing the Jett. It's interesting to see him and Shao and different people trying to pick up the Jett over in Europe. They're going more in that direction, as it feels like NA. Some of the teams are backing off it a little bit, at least. But yeah, we another part to this. Safe is a fucking beast on Sentinel. Genuinely one of the best Sentinels in the European region. I mean, he's one of the best Sentinels players in the world as well. He's incredibly dynamic in that position. It's been good for him. And then Leo as well. A lot of credit to him. Plus, this entire run was Draken had some fucking horrific scenario, right? I can't remember it though.
Yeah, he did. I can't remember exactly what
Did
it
he
is
have like
either,
a death in the family or something, and he wasn't able to go see them, or it was something like that.
It was there was a sad scenario. I forget the exact details, but there was a sad scenario. And then also, of course, I mean, he took time off and then came back. And I was pretty impressed with his.
He played
play
some
in this.
Jett as well. He played some opping Jett at different times, which looked okay for them.
Yeah, I will say, one of the things I did actually like Guild's attacking half on Icebox without the Sage against Fnatic. It was one of
With the breach.
Yeah, I actually didn't. What they were doing with it, though, I actually didn't mind it. The thing I mind about it is that I don't think it'll really be a consistent thing because it felt very formulaic, and I think that it's limiting when you with the comp that they are running. I mean, they really only have two options, and they exercise them, which was like hit A bunch of times, and they were like conditioning this A hit at 50 seconds on the timer, and then they would work mid a little bit, and then one round they contacted into B, and then it was back to A hits with the ults for the rest of it, because you can't really execute B super effectively with the comp they had. But I like what they did with it. I just, I don't know. I don't want to be, David Beckham is going to be furious, but I just don't, I don't know.
You don't see...
They never do it for me. I feel like they beat Fnatic, who were not getting any kills. They just couldn't hit any shots, and Safe was just dunking on them. And then they played against Ascend, and they kind of just got whacked. Yeah. And that was it.
Yeah. I don't really see a big ceiling for this team.
Yeah, it just wasn't.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
there you go, though. That's a small moment for Guild.
Small moment. They beat Fnatic. Good. And I like that Icebox attack.
Yeah. And they look extremely drilled. They've got if you're a team in tier 2 that's coming up and you're looking to try and learn, proper spacing, how to set up stuff, Guild's the kind of team that is getting more out of their group because they have very good timing and drills on what they're doing. So there you go. Moving over though to some of the news from this week as we remove ourselves from the activity of the qualifiers. TSM. We were talking about them last week and saying that there was...
we find a way to talk about TSM every week.
Because that's what the people want to know.
We need that. We need those interactions. We need it. We need TSM really interactions.
Impressions.
They were reported to be interested in Leviathan and Critical. Now a further report has come out saying that they've settled onto Leviathan, and so they're going to be picking him up. They also mentioned, Sabrosa was talking on stream about some of the reasons why they cut Drone, and mentioned specifically that they felt like they needed a Sova player. They needed someone to come in and play Sova for the team. Now that also implies that Waddell and Sabrosa were immovable in those duelist positions, and Drone didn't really get a look in there.
Kurt is just a 14-year-old girl with these fucking emojis, bro.
The devil emoji. Dude, TSM
It's not
is
even
about to get-
purple.
It's not the
TSM about to
purple.
get
Yeah, it needs to be the
naughty
It's
with
not
purple
even a
this
devil.
demon
roster.
one.
What do you think about this pickup?
What do I think about it?
Yeah.
Again, I think they've signed a good upcoming talent who could certainly pan out to be a very solid player.
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to fix TSM? That's the real question. I mean, I think Leviathan's. I think Leviathan is a good player for sure.
Yeah, they've killed Noble by doing this, by the way.
Yeah, rest in peace.
They're just
Well,
assassinating
did they kill?
that team.
What did they kill Noble, or did Noble kill themselves in the fact that like after they won, they all just decided to go free agent because they wanted to get paid more money?
Well, I imagine that Leviathan
Well,
getting a deal probably incentivized the others to look for similar
Yeah,
things.
I'm sure,
looking for
but
a
like
replacement.
also, if you have a whole team and you're under an org, right? Like, and Leviathan leaves, all you need to do is fill up one player, and then you still have a guaranteed contract with Noble, more than likely, right? So, like, to me, if a whole team chooses to disband, even though you're under org, that to me implies that they would all rather look for better opportunities on top of that. Like,
Yeah.
not have, like, I'm sure Leviathan leaving, like you said, incentivized it, but it seems like that's a pretty wobbly foundation if one person leaves and you have a contract and you'd rather just go free agent.
Yeah.
You know, especially if you've had like some recent decent success and like a, you know, looking around that level. So I do think
Cool.
Leviathan's cool because it's what TSM needs, some good supportive players. They really need some strong supportive players to help iron out this roster a bit. I think you even like you put it, you linked the clip, and it's a clip that exists, but it was like Sabrosa talking about
Yeah,
their
of
issues
why they
and being
could
like,
drone.
yeah,
Yeah.
like they needed like a Sova player. They need like a real cracked out Sova player, and ideally also someone that could play like some other supportive roles too. And I think Leviathan fits that. There's a lot of room for him to grow.
Sorry, Connor. I'm just laughing because I know.
Yeah, you're just doing the
Balla-
little emoji movie
No,
down
No,
there. as
Balla's
well.
just sat there shaking
Balla
his
is
head,
just-
ready
this
to
is
maul.
Balla's favorite team.
I don't even know if I have
and he's
anything
ready
to say.
pop
Like,
off.
Oh, okay.
I think we've said everything that we need to say. I just okay. They have a Sova player. Woo! That's not the problem. Their problem is not that. That
Do
is
they
not
just
their
need to-
problem.
Oh no, here we go.
I feel like that's a stepping
We already
stone.
did it last
That's
week.
a stepping stone, though. But at least I feel it's a stepping stone.
I'm at least.
Not.
I
Well,
mean,
they need a fucking. I don't. I mean, I'm not gonna pose any questions.
we already did the prostate
what role
exam.
does Bang? What does Bang do on the team right now? Is he playing? He's playing smokes or what? What's going on?
he
over
was-
there? No, he's playing.
He was a smokes
playing-
player, and now he plays duelist.
I
for
thought he
them.
was
He's been
really.
playing
I thought he was
duelist.
at his best when he was on Omen, but they
They
have.
got drone because he's a duelist, and then they picked. I mean, it was different orders, mind you, but
Yeah,
Never mind.
I assumed
my
that.
point is made.
I assumed that they would have Bang playing controller because, at least to me, when I had watched his games when he was still like on the come up, his best play was when he was on Omen. But I don't know.
Well, they could, but Bang, you could argue, is more flexible in that, like, yeah, he plays duelist, but he could swap over to the controller, right, and be fine on it, you know?
They have like
They need
14 people on this team who are flexible. Sabrosa's played like everything. Drone himself played smokes, Phoenix, and Sova.
It's all just a matter of time because then
I
they were
mean,
like, well, then
they
actually,
play-
because then it's just then they figure out the next person's not flexible.
There's a
then they cut
difference
them.
between people who are flexible and people who have been like
That's
good,
people
yeah.
who've been like had ropes attached to their legs and are getting pulled and tortured into various different directions. That's what it feels like to me watching TSM. They're not so much flexible as just determined to play a lot of agents. But that doesn't mean that you're flexible. That just means that you have the balls to go and pick some agents that you're less comfortable with.
Yeah.
We
I
already
think you
talked
gotta
about
start
TSM.
somewhere.
Critical's
You
still
gotta
good.
start
Shit.
Moving on.
Just saying he's a good free agent. He wasn't playing with BBG. What's going on there?
Yep.
I'm not even gonna. I was gonna take us down a fucking rabbit hole, but go on.
Andbox.
Yeah.
Andbox dropped Seb. And we don't actually know who the replacement is, right? They haven't announced anything.
Well, the
but
streets have been talking.
What have the streets been saying? Because I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard any whispers from the cobblestones.
Well, I mean, a lot of people. I think that like sort of. There's a lot of assuming that like Thwyfo just became a free agent. That would be a suitable replacement, maybe like a level up in terms of a bit of the firepower.
Okay.
I think that's reasonable, but I don't know. Evidently, the behind the scenes through the grapevine, they're looking at getting John Cutie who was
Oh yeah, I saw
a
that.
really
I don't know, John.
a pretty I mean just a nasty like in the tier 2 scene player.
What does he play?
I've seen him play a number of different agents. Like typically, yeah, I was gonna say a lot of duelists recently, but
Wait, isn't this the guy who got the formation story playing in like EU servers from like North Africa or something?
I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, it is Morocco. Like, I'm pretty sure.
Wait, you mean one
I
of the
don't know,
stories
but-
that Riot does when people are up at the top of the ladder for a while and they have like
Yes.
an article written about them? I don't know. I didn't read this
I mean,
one.
could also just be 100% nonsense, but that's just what
No,
I've
I
heard.
believe Balla.
That's just what I've heard. No, what I was
Oh,
saying.
what
that it
you
was,
were
Can tell
saying.
me anything.
that it was
and
that they were
believe it.
considering him at all.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't believe you. I
That's
believe
just what I've
Balla.
heard
I
from the
don't believe
streets. But yeah, I mean, I guess I get it with Andbox trying to make a move though. They didn't qualify. It seems like they're just trying to level up the whole roster.
I
mean,
don't
it looks
really
like
get it.
Andbox are just trying to. They're dropping the absolute bag, and they're just trying to level the roster up. That's what it looks like
Yeah.
from the organization standpoint.
How many points do they have? They need to do well
they have
this time around to be able to
they
get
have
into the
any?
last chance
I think.
qualifier, right?
They have 0 points.
Yeah.
Right. So
Right?
they need to do
Oh
well.
no, they
here.
got some from last Challengers Finals. Sorry,
Oh, okay.
so probably like 20.
Now would be the time to invest. My issue is that they already made that investment to add Stani, so I would have liked them to make changes then. These like one every couple of months changes cause you to not be able to work with a solid 5-man roster for long enough.
They're turning into immortals. They got the revolving door going all of a sudden, and they're just like
They were reverse immortals. They're going to buy people instead of selling them, though. I mean, are
That's
they
true.
selling Seb anywhere? I don't think so.
That's
they're-
very true.
They're turning into the customers of Immortals. They're just going to get fed people. Who do Immortals have to sell now? Who would be a good move from Immortals to Andbox?
Chemicals to play.
Yep, it's happening.
Whatever.
It's going to happen. They're going to offer him a
No,
deal
I
that they
don't
can't
know.
refuse. Packing 10s out here like the Godfather. he's gonna go up to New York and make Andbox an offer they can't refuse.
Well, anyone got a deep dive on this?
No,
Okay.
I mean, I think it's kind of like Andbox. You know, they definitely need to make some sort of changes here, and got to start somewhere. Seb, probably a piece that could be changed.
This
So-
this is one of the teams that I wanted to see have time after Challengers Finals, and they just did not get any time. No time. JC Stanny's in, Seb's out. Like there's just no time. So
Well,
this is what it is.
one of the other teams that didn't qualify and is immediately making a reactive, or what seems to be very reactive roster swap is Cloud9, which I didn't expect. They came in with a shit ton of hype. They don't quite qualify, but they still perform relatively well. They look a bit one-dimensional, but they still perform well at what they're trying to do. And now they have re-added poiz to the roster.
Oh,
After-
that's re-add. I thought that
Yeah.
said read with 2 D's.
Cloud9
Yeah, they've
Reed,
read
da-da.
poiz. They've
Okay,
taught him how
yeah.
to read.
All right. Criticize Kurt's lower third skills, if you will.
You're gonna criticize
Are
that
you gonna-
one? There's a
I
pun
just
in it.
Look at the
copied what
pun.
you typed.
Oh yeah, it was me.
This
It wasn't.
Cloud9
Cloud9.
I
re-add
added the
poiz
epic
after
flop
flopping?
capitalization.
That's great. That's
You don't like the
amazing.
pun?
Dude, you guys are a bunch of haters.
Nah, terrible.
That's
Can you
great.
add a cool emoji at the end so people look at the pun? I think
Dude, add
that's
like the
really-
crying laughing face after the fucking laughing emoji.
We have the best lower thirds. in
This to
podcast
me-
history.
I don't get this.
I'm gonna
I
be
don't
honest.
fucking get this.
I'm gonna refute that with my own point.
Okay, well. Fuck me. What is this? Here's why I don't get this. First of all, Cloud9 clearly have a lot of talent. That roster looked like it had a shit ton of potential. They just needed to work some stuff out. Secondly, poiz doesn't play smokes. Who's moving over to play smokes? Zeppa, maybe? And poiz comes in to play Jett. Now you're messing with even more stuff.
maybe-
And you only have a short amount of time to qualify. And KO is coming in.
But yeah,
What the fuck?
it might be the triple initiator vibes. One duelist.
Triple initiator, no controller? Who's playing that for the team now?
Yeah,
Mitch?
No
You don't
one.
need a controller because you're knifing the other controller, so you have no smokes on the
Ah,
map.
yeah, exactly.
Big facts. I think
Genius.
No, I honestly,
You'd
I
like this?
feel. I'm not gonna say I like it. Am I the only? I feel like the writing was kind of on the wall.
A floppy?
What?
He barely played.
I know this is okay. Just hear me out. Hear me out.
I'm
Okay.
about to be disgusted.
It has less to do with. It has less to do with the gameplay, and maybe I'm reading into this too much. You guys can let me know. But I feel like it's been obvious for months that this dude does not like Valorant.
Wasn't that Zeppa where we were looking at that?
No, it was both of them.
I don't even know.
It was both of them. I feel like this dude just doesn't like the game, and I think that's a big part of it.
Did he quit, or did they replace him?
I don't know.
If
the
he quit,
terminology
I could understand,
was replaced.
but like,
no, but I think it might be one of those. I feel like the dude just doesn't give a shit about the game. And I could be reading into it too much. I just don't think he likes it. I feel like he's kind of tried to make that obvious by saying, I don't really like this game. Like
on what? On tweets, on a stream, on like where? Where have you got this impression?
Yeah, like on Twitter. Just, I don't know.
Like
that's
from back in the day, or?
That's just the impression that I've gotten.
I've seen people say that shit, but they look, and because levels got added into the game and he's level 16 or something like that. And people are like, he doesn't even play this game. That's the reason I see people say that.
I didn't see that. That's not what I'm talking about.
Okay.
I mean,
okay,
that in itself, though, just digging into that point a little bit, people used to talk about that with Overwatch as well. When custom games, scrims didn't give you levels to your account, people would be like, oh, well, these guys, they don't even fucking play the game. But, I mean, if you're scrimming all the time. The thing is, though, at the beginning of a game, I do think that you need to be playing ranked all the fucking time in order to keep up with how the game is played. I don't think it's enough to only be playing scrims. Everybody that did that in Overwatch has now just been phased out. Like, maybe it wouldn't happen now, but like 2 years down the road or something, it feels ridiculous to read into that kind of stuff. But unless you're playing the game all the time, you're probably not going to last long term. Now, this isn't long term, though. This is like, he's only been playing for 3 months, 4 months, something like that. With Cloud9 happening?
Yeah. Listen, I could be reading into that too much.
That was anything from his Twitter account. It's a bunch of nonsense on his Twitter account for the most part.
It was just the impression that I had got from him and Zeppo, like when they were swapping to the game, and that, I don't know, they just weren't as into it as they were in CS:GO. I feel like they made that very obvious.
Okay, well let's run with that narrative just for a moment. Let's assume that would be. Let's assume that this guy wants to meme on Twitter more than he wants to play Valorant. Okay, let's. What the hell would Cloud9 be doing right now then? Like without Floppy and with poiz, if it was a change that the org had to make because Floppy isn't motivated or wants to quit or whatever, you know, if your narrative was correct, what are they going to do now?
Die.
I thought poiz was very good and had a lot of potential.
Yes, I agree with that.
So,
but he is a duelist player. He is a Jett player.
That is and they've brought Zeppa in to be a
Zeppa
duelist as well. But
I don't know enough about
Zeppa
because
Zeppa's career that
so
I don't know, he doesn't
early.
need to play Jett. Right, it's early in his career. I mean. And you've
Could
seen
Zeppa
that with
play
other
smokes. I don't know. Maybe
you've seen that with other players that have swapped over from CS late, that are like automatic, for example, or whatever. Like these guys go through a lot of different roles before they land on what their maybe best role may be. So I think it's not out of the question. I mean, also they have Leaf, who was a freak on Omen.
Oh fuck! Actually, that does seem like the obvious move, doesn't it? Just putting Leaf on Omen, and then
again,
having
I
Zeppa
really
and
like when you have a star player who can be a star on support, on a supportive role. I think you should have them on that role. I mean, yes, Leaf was really good when he was on Raze in that tournament. That is not debatable. He was nuts. But he was also nuts when he was on Omen.
Yeah,
and if you can
I forgot about that.
If you can have him be insane on Omen, and then you have two guys who will be very good on Duelists, I think that's a potential recipe for success. So I'm not really mad at it. I don't know.
Yeah,
that's kind of where I'm.
No, I honestly I had completely forgotten about Leaf's ability to just hop on the Omen. I do think that makes the most sense as a natural move from here on out. I am interested in this team though because they had so much hype coming in, and now they didn't quite get there, and they haven't just stuck with the same core. But to give the organization credit, up until now, I would say they've made the right move ever since like Tens left the ever since Tens left the team, they've made the right moves in rebuilding since then. So
and even then, I mean, I was not so disappointed with them in how they went out. I mean, it was unfortunate that they went out, but I felt like we were, if I recall, we were kind of like willing to give them more time. No, I wasn't. And I would still be fine with them playing with that same 5 in the next tournament. And I don't know. I guess another question I was like, did we feel that there was a problem? Did we feel there was a move that needed to be made?
I don't think a move needed to be made.
Floppy needed to be, because I don't know. I thought he was doing fine and was still, newer to the game. And you give the guys who were newer a bit of time to see where they go. Like, it took automatic a bit of time, but he's looking pretty good.
Yeah, he is the player that's taken the most time, though.
Yeah, but it panned out, is what I'm saying. Like, some players will take longer.
Yeah. Okay, well, interesting to follow that team. Final topic of the day is the most important topic of every week. Wyatt's Weekly Award.
Dude, it's so dark in here. I can't see anything. What is that glowing? Oh. It's Wyatt's Weekly Award.
Is that a genie lamp?
Yeah.
Wait,
For
it
the
turns
science?
Yeah.
I know. It gets brought up every time. It's fucking nonsense, isn't it? It's like...
What do you mean?
Well, it says science. It has a depiction of an atom. Then it has some test tubes and a vial. And the whole thing is on...
It's on a genie's
stars coming out of a genie's lamp.
I don't...
It's the combination of mysticism and science that the world so desperately needs.
Oh, was it green, like the green screen that made the fucking gem
it glows
thing,
in the dark.
diamond thing at the bottom? Oh,
It glows in the dark.
But it's never in the dark.
Yeah, it's just not in the dark, and also you got to really get the light in there to get it going.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
One day we'll show you it. When you come over for the next Masters co-stream, we'll show you. It's really impressive.
Yeah, it's really cool. This week, the weekly award is going to go to Def of XSET. I think deservedly so.
Good choice. Good choice.
Deservedly so. He came in, he fixed the primary issues with the team. They look much better, and not just in this tournament. I think they are just going to be, from here on out, they should just be on one step up. They should just be on a higher base level due to him joining the team, working out their attack sides. And not only that, but I think he was having a good individual tournament as well.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
I think he was playing pretty. I thought he was playing pretty well. But yeah, genuinely, I mean, a huge. It's weird. It's almost weird to say turnaround for the team because we have them in our mind as like a consistent playoff team. But he really he did just take them to the next level. I suppose is a better way of framing it, and deserves a lot of credit for that.
Yeah. On an individual level as well, I think Def has always looked like a good player on teams that haven't even been doing that well. But also he was IGLing on them, so it's difficult to try and extract those two. Like you as the IGL do have some accountability for when your team is playing poorly. So I think this is a big turnaround for him as a player too, to prove that he's got it. He's got what it takes to be able to play at the top level, and you could see that when he was at the bottom, but the team wasn't demonstrating that. Whereas XSET, both the team and him really, really look good.
Yeah. And for, what happened over the weekend with the England-Italy game, you have to throw a bone to the English guys every once in a while.
Yeah, that's true. You do have to do that. I was going to bring that up, Balla, so I'm glad you did. I'm glad someone else brought up that so we could once again talk about England's defeat in front of Josh.
Yeah. Is that why you're wearing blue, you bastard? Reminding me of the loss.
Don't know anything about what the colors mean.
Yeah, just when I'd slept all of that
off.
off,
Insulted.
I have removed that memory sector from my brain.
It was a sad day.
Oh yeah, no, I mean it was
sad.
It started great.
There was an immense amount of hype.
There was,
and just swept away so quickly.
Yep. I went to bed at 6 p.m. that day. Both a combination of alcohol and sadness put me to sleep. So don't show it again, Kurt. Fucking hell. Well, now
Poor
suddenly I'm going to have a terrible day. Hope you're happy, Wyatt. Hope you're happy. Hope Def's happy as well, bringing this upon himself. And yeah, subscribe to our YouTube channel, I guess.
Before we go,
We've got some other stuff.
before we go, I'm sorry for deflating you, Josh. We got one new member this week.
Pog. Wow.
Caillou_U. So it might be Kai UU, like the little face. You know?
Yeah,
Put it
yeah,
in the
yeah.
lower
Nice.
third.
You mean
Cute
like
little face.
Oh,
Welcome to
okay.
member.
Welcome
Not
to
ooh,
member.
but you_you.
Welcome to member.
Welcome
We
to
also
member.
have, I know that we've been taking a little, not a deliberate break from Backchat, but both us and the teams have been busy recently. But we do have, thanks to Balla going deep into the underground, a pretty cool, hopefully live Backchat event coming up as well with another team that is in the rough area. I don't want to whet your appetite too much just in case the plans fall through, but hopefully we should have that available for you this Monday coming up. So another big Tings interview on the horizon. Yep, subscribe to the channel, hit the fucking motherfucking bell, and you'll be able to see.
All right, close it out.
Yeah, you'll be
Close
able
it
to
out.
see. Well, whatever. Bye. I need to work on these outros, man. They're absolutely atrocious.
Headshot that like button.
Yeah.
Edge. Dude, gamers will get that.
Sova alt that subscribe button.
Demon face. Hit the bell. Demon
Close it out.
face.
Close. Stop the show.
I'm just gonna keep it going for a little bit.
Christ.
Okay, bye.